Hey now, happy Thursday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk with Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero. 3 hours of the two of us today in our final full show of the week. Yes, we found out this morning, or right around noon anyway, it became official. The K-State baseball is advancing on. They survived to play another day in the Big 12 baseball tournament.
They didn't just survive. They dominated today.
They crushed them.
They blanked the number one seed Texas Longhorns. It's the Batcats moving in, advancing in the losers bracket. They will play tomorrow, and they will do so at 3 o'clock with pregame coverage at 2:30 on the K-State Sports Network with a Royals game later on Friday night. That means the other thing that the Kansas State Wildcats accomplished was giving you and me a 4-day weekend.
Yes, so no 580 Sports Talk coming up tomorrow. Instead, we will have K-State baseball, and then we'll have Royals baseball coming up tomorrow. So it's our final show of the week. And coming up in the next 3 hours, we're going to get to last night's Royals game. Tough series loss for the boys in blue. Put up a few runs late, but it was not enough. They end up losing 6-4 in their series finale with the Tigers. Have some notes on that. Also, we were talking about Carlos Hernandez as a trade candidate yesterday. Pretty impressive inning for him. We've got some numbers on just how lit his arm was last night. Severely lit. How about averaging 100+ miles an hour on his fastball for the evening? Pretty good. Pretty impressive from Carlos Hernandez. So we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on. Also a note from Matt Quattrero about not bringing back an old favorite. It is finally a new era of Royals baseball. We'll talk about that a little bit later on here in this opening hour. We've also got either or over under coming up here this hour. Plus, we moved the schedule around a little bit because it's a little bit of a weird week here at 580 WIBW. So we're going to do crosstalk with Jake Lebahn, who you just heard on Mic'd Up. That'll be at the bottom of this hour. We will still do the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. That is coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour today. So a little bit later than normal for our chat with Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. But he will join us. Busy day around the state, to say the least. We've already got one final in from state softball. How about the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds?
How about
knocking off the top seed in Class 5A softball? Very impressive win for Shawnee Heights. Already today, the Washburn Rural Girls are in action right now in Lawrence. They are up as well in their games. We've got plenty of softball, baseball, track and field, soccer, tons to get to coming up with Pistol today at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Also on the show, we'll talk a little K-State basketball. We talked a lot about KU's spring and summer yesterday. But we'll take a look at the K-State roster and what they still need to do, and frankly, how much they still need to do to assemble their roster for the 23-24 season. We'll have our final What Is Wrong With You of the week. There's been a lot of talk online about the way that the national media has been covering the NBA playoffs, but really there's kind of a bigger commentary about how they cover big topics in general. I know that sounds a little esoteric, that sounds a little vague, but it'll make a lot more sense when we get to it coming up at about 5:30 today. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll wrap things up with our final word for the week. All that is coming up today here on 580 Sports Talk. You are welcome to join the program and be a part of the show today, either on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Christopher jumping into the YouTube comments already. Christopher, good to see you. Thanks for everyone who's watching along and, of course, listening on the Sports Voice of Kansas as well. He says that's not going to bode well for Texas's regional placement. No. College baseball, Texas is going to play in the postseason, but they were hoping to win a few games at the Big 12 tournament to the Big 12 championship, in order to host a regional. They will not be hosting a regional.
It sure seems like maybe no Big 12 teams are going to host a regional, which is kind of a wild thing to consider, but very possible, according to the people who study this stuff more than I do, that despite the overall excellence of the Big 12, like everybody acknowledges, it's a good league, it's a deep league, but it's one of those situations where it's so deep that there's not one team that stands out head and shoulders above the rest to get a chance to be one of the 16 teams that hosts a baseball regional. On the flip side of that, I know there was a bit of consternation in regards to Kansas State and their NCAA tournament hopes, particularly if they had lost today. D1 baseball's bracketology did not drop K-State out of their field coming into today. And I would imagine a win over a top 25 team in an elimination game would be helpful as well. So I think you can be more optimistic than pessimistic if you are a fan of the Batcats that they will be playing next week. You can feel better about it certainly today than you did yesterday. You can feel even better tomorrow if they can continue their season against the loser between TCU and KU later today.
I have a feeling I know who that's going to be. Just a hunch. But maybe things will go better for the Jayhawks than I'm expecting them to. So, K-State baseball tomorrow. Mark also in the YouTube comments says the Batcats are doing better than the Royals right now.
Fact. They're going to play in the postseason. Royals aren't doing that.
I mean, sure as hell ain't doing that this
bigger
year.
Postseason. I mean, if the Major League Baseball postseason were 64 teams, I think the Royals might sneak into the field.
How are your Albuquerque Isotopes doing?
Not great.
Are the Storm Chasers doing anything good this year?
I couldn't tell you.
I have absolutely no idea. I was talking about this with Abby the other day. We went to the Wind Surge game down in Wichita this past weekend, and we were saying we really enjoy going, but when you only go to 1 or 2 minor league games a year, it's hard to find players you really like, because if they're good, they go up to AAA, and then they go to the majors, and they are on teams that I don't care about. So that's minor league baseball though for you. Anyway, let's touch on the Royals. We've been dancing around to the topic long enough. The Royals lose last night. They fall to the Detroit Tigers. I've been putting so much energy into saying the bullpen's actually good, guys. Look at this good thing the Royals have. Their bullpen, it's been awesome. We were due for a clunker. And last night, that's what we got from the bullpen. 2 pitchers combined to allow 5 runs. Not great for Whitgren in his first appearance for the Royals big league club. Not really a good night for anyone. After Zach Greinke, though, Greinke had, in between really good appearances from Greinke and Carlos Hernandez, you had 2 duds right in the middle. Hard to be upset about what Zach Greinke is giving you right now. 1 run in 5 innings. Didn't walk a ton of guys. In the month of May, 5 starts. He's got a 2.73 ERA. And his opponent's OPS, so of all the batters who have faced him, their OPS, a combined 561. That is approximately Hunter Dozier's season OPS, which is exactly 558. That's pretty good. You hold all your opposing batters to, on average, being Hunter Dozier, you'll live with that.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for from Zach Greinke. Unfortunately, the other part of what we have talked about this week came to fruition yesterday, which is that Zach Greinke now is a 5 and fly guy.
Yeah.
He's not giving you a lot of depth. He's certainly not going to get you into the 7th inning or the 8th inning. Only gives the Royals 5, and they got to turn to the bullpen. And the bullpen has been heavily used in the last week or so, and that may have been starting to catch up with them a bit last night. Josh Taylor gives up the 3-run home run in the 6th to Zach Short, a definitely real person who I had for sure heard of before last night.
Definitely knew of him.
Yeah, definitely knew all about him. The pinch hit 3-run homer that broke the game open, and the Tigers would never trail again. It's unfortunate that that's how that happened. Royals mounted something of a rally. They got within 4-3. They had 2 on with 1 out in the 9th. Could only get 1 of those across. Unfortunately, that home run was, and then the 2 they got later in the game, the Tigers did were pretty decisive.
I wanted to ask this one Zach Greinke question before we get to anything else from last night's game, and specifically Carlos Hernandez. Right before the year started, one of the questions we asked while doing our bold predictions for the Royals this year, would Zach Greinke get to 3,000 strikeouts? Would he get there? Through last night, Zach Greinke has now made a major league leading 11 starts. He's out there every game. He's not missing time. He's out there every game. He's made 11 starts. He has struck out 41 batters. He is now on pace this year. If you assume, how many starts do you assume? 31? That's the number I used.
Yeah. If he's got 20 more starts in him.
He's on pace for 115.5 strikeouts this year. That would be another 74 this season. That would put him 3 strikeouts short of 3,000 for his career. I will ask you the same question I asked you at the end of March. Does he get to 3,000?
It's going to be tough because, I mean, there's no guarantee he gets to 31 starts. And again, the starts he's making are only 5-inning starts. So that's really what you got to look at is on a strikeout per inning basis or, K per 9 basis. His strikeouts per 9 innings right now actually better than it has been in either of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
The 6.4 strikeouts per 9, 41 Ks in his 57 and a third innings. I don't know. He's going to have to go longer into outings, I think, to have a real look at it. So I didn't think he was going to get there before the season started. I thought he'd come up a little bit short. He has proven to me that he has rediscovered some ability to get some strikeouts. Maybe he's emptying the tank sooner, knowing now that he's got 5 innings in him and that's it.
Could be.
But I think he's going to be just a bit short of that.
Yeah.
If I had to guess it.
I hope he gets there because I think this is it. I think it's going to be 20 and done for Zach Greinke's career, but I do think this is probably his last season. I'd like to see him get it. I think everyone would like to see Zach Greinke get that, but just an interesting note about some history that Zach Greinke is chasing. What was the stat the other day? I don't think we got to it on the show that he's now the 5th pitcher to ever strike out 1,000 different batters. Is that what the stat is?
Yes, 1,000 different batters, yes.
I needed to pull up. We should have mentioned that when it happened during his last start. But can you name the other 4 who have done it?
I believe it's Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, Steve Carlton.
No, not Steve Carlton.
Okay, not Steve Carlton.
But Ryan and Clemens, you are right on both of those.
Walter Johnson.
No.
Much
more modern.
Yeah, it would have had to be modern guys, huh? Randy Johnson.
Randy did it.
Johnson knew it was a Johnson. And then
Randy and Walter, very similar.
Yeah, like the exact same guy, except 100 years apart, and one's left-handed and super tall, and they both threw hard.
One's from Kansas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Hiawatha. Born in Olathe, I think.
Where was Walter Johnson born?
He was born in Olathe.
You native Kansans will know this answer, I'm sure. Humboldt.
That I knew it was an H.
Humboldt, Kansas. Beautiful Humboldt, Kansas, and Allen County. It was south, too, so you knew that part.
No, Hiawatha's
north. Yeah, so
never
mind.
Hiawatha's almost in Nebraska.
Never mind.
This has been Talking Geography.
I knew that. Why did I say that?
I
don't know.
It happens. I don't know. I don't know the 4th one.
Pretty good pitcher, Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
Who also pitched for forever. Yeah, those are your only 5 who have struck out 1,000 different batters in their career. Which is a pretty insane stat when you think about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're all expansion era, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a fair point. I did note when we started this, Carlos Hernandez. Last night, this is from Jake Eisenberg, who's part of the Royals radio network now, the Royals broadcast team now. Last night, he faced 3 batters, 1 inning of work, no hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts. The strikeout pitch to get Javier Baez, 100.6 miles an hour. To get Riley Green, 101.4. And then to get Spencer Torkelson, 100.7. He threw 11 fastballs, and he averaged 100.3 miles an hour on that fastball. Aroldis Chapman has been the hardest throwing pitcher, or at least the hardest throwing lefty in all of baseball this year, or out of the bullpen anyway. Carlos Hernandez has been pumping it in since they have gotten him in this role in particular. And if this is what you have to do to maximize his value, he's just going to be a flamethrower for 1 inning out of the bullpen. That's fine because it looks like he might be darn good at it. 11 fastballs, 16 total pitches, 3 strikeouts not the world's most dangerous lineup, but that's not, if you're going to face a part of the Tigers lineup that might hurt you, it's probably that trio right there. Baez, Green, Torkelson. So very impressed by Carlos Hernandez. He's really been dealing it recently. Very impressed by him.
Yeah, he's throwing hard, and that kind of velocity can get you out of a lot of mistakes. The issue with him as a starter was you just didn't have the mix, but you can just come out of the bullpen and just blow smoke for 15, 20 pitches and be pretty effective. This feels like the role for him moving forward, and kind of like we talked about yesterday. Like he's a guy who could be an interesting trade candidate, and the Royals should listen to offers for Carlos Hernandez. Like relievers are the guys you trade because their value is volatile. And if you have an opportunity to cash in on the high end for a relief pitcher, regardless of how many arbitration years they might have, you do it.
Right now, well, I won't say right now, but I think if you get a couple more weeks of this kind of production from Hernandez, could you argue you might get more for him than anyone else in the trade? He's got 4 more years of team control.
I still think Chapman, just because he's the shiny name. He's pitched the 9th inning. He's pitched in a lot of big games.
Somewhat more. He was bad last year and really not good the year before. But okay, that's fair.
But if you have Hernandez in his 4 years of team control, could get you like a similar return. I don't think that's out of the question.
Hey, 2 returns at that kind of value, I think you'd be very happy with if you're the Kansas City Royals this year. Also, speaking of the Royals, did want to bring this up. And we were talking about, is this truly going to be a new Royals regime, a new Royals era? And how Dayton Moore, this was a big topic yesterday, how Dayton Moore very much operated with way too much sentimentality with guys who you really didn't even need to be sentimental about. Like, fans liked Witt. Witt was good with the media. He was a good player. He led the majors in hits 2 years in a row. He's a really good player. But he was never, not to say he isn't a winner, but he was never on a winning team. Like, the team was never good with Whit Merrifield on it. It's not like he was some untouchable bastion of Royals greatness. He was just a good player on crappy teams. But don't want to move that guy. Really can't. Don't feel like we have to move that guy.
We think we're building around him.
Same with Hunter Dozier, who had one good year and was buddies with Dayton Moore, and he got locked up for a long-term contract.
Right.
Matt Quattrero made it clear yesterday, though, Eric Hosmer not coming back to the Kansas City Royals. The Cubs DFA'd him the other day. He's not really good anymore.
No.
Some people might even argue, was he ever all that great to begin with? That's maybe some hater in them because he did have some good years with the Royals. And I think a pretty good year with the Padres. Yeah. But I'm happy to see this. One, there's not really anywhere to put him. B, don't live in the past. This feels like something that the old regime may have been willing to do.
Oh, 100%. Dayton Moore would have kicked the tires 100%. He would have reached out to his agent, gauged interest, the whole thing, offered him a spot even in Omaha. Yes, 100%.
Argued that this would bring people to the game, even though, are you going to watch Eric Hosmer?
Eric will be a good example for our young guys. He'll be a good example of how to play the game, how to be a professional, and how to be a father, how to be a husband, all those things. I don't know if Eric, does Haas have kids?
Not as far as I'm aware.
I legit don't know.
I don't think he does. I'm just glad they're not living in the past with that. And I think this isn't necessarily a Royals or Royals fan commentary. It's just the way that a lot of sports fans kind of handle things. I think there's always an attachment to your guys, especially when your guys came up when the team was good. Like, we talked about this a little bit with Michael Swain on Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly, talking about Ernest Uday and how a lot of KU fans think, well, what if he came back? Well, you'll have the backup minutes behind Hunter Dickinson, but then a year after you'll be the guy, and NIL's there, and come on, we would love to see you back. That's not best for business sometimes, and that's a different case because, there's playing time and all of that, but living in the past and just always wanting to bring back guys who had good memories the first time around, how often does that actually work out? Almost never.
Mm-hmm.
Almost never. So while it might have been an obvious thing, it is also nice to hear, we don't have a spot for that guy, and he's not going to end up on our team. And I'm thankful for that because I'm already sick of watching Eric Hosmer play. I was never a huge Hosmer fan from the very beginning, but having watched him play for the Cubs for a quarter of a season this year, I'm really not a fan. I don't need to see that in 2023.
It's an interesting baseball reference page for Eric Hosmer because for the bulk of his career, in fact, for his entire career, he is a slightly above average hitter. He's got a career OPS plus of 107, which means over the course of his 13 years, he has been 7% better than your league average hitter, which is great if you're a glove first second baseman or center fielder with a really good glove or a catcher, perhaps.
Yeah.
But when you're a first baseman, I guess that's kind of where his bat has always felt. I guess I shouldn't say always, but his bat felt a little underwhelming for a bulk of his career because it was a first base bat. And you want your first baseman to be power guys. Or, you want your first baseman to hit for a really high average. Hosmer only ever hit over 300 twice, once in 2013, once in 2017. So I don't know if this is the end of the line for him. I don't know if somebody else will take a flyer. There are some teams that could really use a first baseman, like the Phillies. It would make some sense for Philadelphia. He's a stinky defensive team, and I don't know how great Hosmer's defense is anymore. At his peak, he won 4 Gold Gloves, but certainly he's better than, unless they're going to really banking on Harper being their everyday first baseman here in a month. I wouldn't be surprised if they kick the tires. Like, I don't think he's played his last Major League Baseball game, but the reason that it's kind of ending like this, where San Diego didn't want him and Washington didn't want him to be included and almost blew up the Juan Soto trade until he accepted the trade to Boston. Then Boston didn't want him, and now Chicago has moved on from him, is because if you're playing a first baseman, you expect them to be well above average offensively.
It's positional value. We talk about that in football with running backs all the time. Value versus the amount you're getting paid versus who else's spot you're taking on the field. Hosmer's just not that guy.
And in his best years, he was that guy. 2015, 2017, he was that guy. 2013, even, I'd argue, he was well above average. He was right at average in the even years, 2014, 2016. 2016, he's only all-star year. He was much better in the years sandwiching that. Even got MVP votes in 2015 and 2017. It's a good big league career. He's
4 Gold Gloves, an all-star, some MVP votes.
He got his 10 years. He got his pension. He's going to show up on the Hall of Fame ballot someday. We'll talk about him 5 years after he retires and say, I wonder if anybody will throw him a courtesy vote. But no, it is not the direction the Royals should be looking. They're set at first base with Vinny and with Nick Pratto, and when you add DH in the mix, they're set there with Salvi or MJ Melendez or Olivares. All of those better options right now for those at bats than Eric Hosmer would be.
Yeah, I mean, first baseman playing 13 years in Major League Baseball and only hitting over 20 home runs 3 times. That's just not what this team needs. I know that's for certain. We will talk plenty more Royals coming up a little bit later on this hour when Jake Lebahn joins us for some crosstalk. Right now, we have to get to a timeout. On the other side of this break, though, we'll come back. We'll play some either or over under here on 580 Sports Talk.
Hello, this is
on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. It's time for Either Or Over Under before we get to Crosstalk with Jake Lebahn. We will still talk to Rick Peterson today. Usually he joins us at 3:35, but due to some scheduling changes, Pistol's going to join us at 4:35 today. By the by, Washburn Rural Softball on the verge of making it to the 6A softball semifinals at state. They're up 5-2 heading to the 7th inning with their ace, Emerson Cope, on the hill at Arocha Ballpark in Lawrence. Either or over under. So I've got a slight twist on the over under question for today. What is the price you would be willing to pay to share a, whatever your favorite subscription service is, Netflix, Hulu, Max, whatever. What is the line you'd be willing to pay to share that account with a family member? This comes up because Netflix has introduced that they are going to now force you to pay essentially for the ability to share your account with other households.
$0 because you shouldn't have to pay to share it. Like, you should be able to figure out if there's a password that's being too widely disseminated and shut that down. But Netflix has gone too far in the wrong direction with this. Like, you should be able to have like a family account. Not all families live in the same household.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not how it works. Like, for years I've used my mom has paid for Netflix for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
My brother uses his in his house, and I use mine in my house. We don't give it out. It's the family Netflix account. And now you want to charge $8 because we don't all live under the same roof. Because if you've got adult kids now, you can't share Netflix anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is?
Apparently,
you can't share. You can't have different accounts. No, the hell with you, Netflix. I'm not watching Netflix anymore. I'll pirate the new season of I Think You Should Leave next week. I'll download it from a very sketchy website.
Yeah, I would think you would be smarter to just make better content people are willing to pay for. Like, I've said this before, we got rid of Netflix because we decided it wasn't worth it anymore. Like, I didn't think the content was good enough.
Now, part of this is it's like I've been watching a lot of like playoff basketball and such. So I haven't, opened the streaming services altogether all that often. It has been a very long time since I have like actively said, I wonder what Netflix has cooking.
Like, I really enjoyed rewatching Chappelle's Show, but like, if the only way for me to get it was either you don't have it or you like share with your family, well, I guess I'm not going to have it because I'm not going to pay like that. No, not going to do that.
No, it's ridiculous. It is. It's like a penalty for, your family, but your kids are grown. I guess they can pay for their own Netflix, huh? No.
Yeah,
come on, man.
Not really smart business.
I think it's incredibly stupid.
Okay, either or. What's worse business? Netflix doing this or HBO Max changing its name to Max, the place to watch HBO.
That is really dumb.
It's so dumb. And if you have it on mobile, you had to download a different app.
If I had wanted Discovery Plus, I would pay for Discovery Plus
Mm-hmm.
so I could watch who are they? Chip and Joanna or Dr. Pimple Popper. I don't want that trash. I just want the HBO stuff.
90 Day Fiance, 90 days after 90 days. I'm sure that's a real spinoff.
I just want the HBO content. It's all bad business.
Also, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which they took off this week.
No, that's a bummer.
Terrible.
All right, so we were talking about Eric Hosmer in the last segment, and that gave me this either or for you. Of the Royals' core four that brought them, really a core five, but like Salvador Perez is still on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Of the core four that left after 2017, or their contracts are up after the 2017 season, Alcides Escobar is still kicking around in the Mexican leagues, and Lorenzo Cain is retired.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two other active, until the other day, active major leaguers from that group, Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas, who is still occupying space on the bench for the Colorado Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
Last check, hitting about 230 with a couple of home runs.
Decent bench bat.
Which player would you have rather had their whole career? We're both 13 years in. Which player would you rather have had for their career, Eric Hosmer or Mike Moustakas? You could only have one of them.
I would rather take Moustakas. I would rather have, the early career, there were some obvious foibles there, but I would rather take the upside at the plate that Mike Moustakas gave you. Plus, I mean, the utility, you can play him at second base. That's a joke. So are the Cincinnati Reds. Yeah, I would take Moustakas. I would take the high-end bat over what Hosmer brought.
Hosmer, we mentioned, career 107 OPS plus, so 7% above league average. Moustakas, 98 career OPS plus, so 2% below league average. But like,
but I would take the peak. Like the peak years are better. He went 2015 through 2020 above average every one of those years.
Yeah, and he had the big home run years too. He had the big power, the 38 home runs, which was a Royals record at the time in 2017, hit 35 for the Brewers in 2019. So there's a little more power there. Didn't win the Gold Gloves, but was still a steady defensive third baseman. That's why Moustakas is probably my answer too, because his skill set at third base feels a little bit more valuable than Hosmer's at first base. But then you have WAR telling you that Hosmer's been 6 wins better than Moustakas over the course of his career. So again, like the bad for Moustakas was really bad. Like like even in the first pennant winning year, 2014, it was like, man, is he going to play himself off the roster? Like, he was terrible. He hit 212 that year. And then his bat woke up in the playoffs, and then he was pretty much excellent, unceasingly excellent from 2015 to through to 2019. So higher peak, more pop at a position where you need pop, and a decent glove, and then a little bit of versatility to move him to first. Or, he did play second base there a couple times with Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I think that's probably my pick too, rather than a first baseman without a ton of power but really elite defense.
You don't get to win this one, nerds. Give me the guy with the big blasts, and the big meaty men slapping meat on this one. I'll take Mike Moustakas. We got to get to a break. Crosstalk's next on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. Rick Peterson's going to join us next hour for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. We've got another team in Class 6A from the city who will be heading to the semifinals for softball state. Washburn Rural picking up a win today. That game has gone final. 5-2 win over Shawnee Mission North. So the Junior Blues will be semifinalists for 6A state. We already know that in 5A, the Shawnee Heights girls are semifinalists in that class. So shout out to both of them. Heights with an upset of the number 1 seed in Class 5A, in fact. So we'll talk about all that with Pistol coming up next hour. Right now, though, it's time for a little crosstalk, and we welcome in one of the hosts of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton. That is Jake Lebahn. You can hear him most every Monday through Friday, noon to 3. He's off tomorrow. It'll be Fulton flying solo.
He's already in vacation mode. He's got the sunglasses on and everything.
Yeah, are you just trying to race outside, or are you blitzed?
No, definitely not.
What's in those bottles of milk?
One, strawberry flavoring, because every now and then my son likes a little strawberry milk.
I get that.
And so a little strawberry milk and just regular milk. And then we're embarking on a 7-hour drive here at about
Nice.
4:30.
America's most scenic drive, too.
Low key, Arkansas is pretty.
It's the natural state. A lot of
It's
natural beauty there.
It's wild because it's some of the bridges that they have going down I-49 they got to be close to like 400 feet tall because it's just a bunch of alleys and everything. It's really pretty. Kind of scary at night, but really pretty.
I believe that.
Hey, Jake, can I reassure you on something that you were talking about a little earlier? I want to make you feel a little better about something going into your weekend. Consider it a gift from me to you.
Okay.
We were talking about the Royals and the Tigers. Tigers took 2 out of 3 from the Royals.
Correct.
And I heard you and Fulton talking. I was coming back to the office from lunch. And you guys were talking about where Detroit and Kansas City stand on their respective rebuilds.
Yeah.
Detroit right now, 22-25. Kansas City, 15-36.
Not
You
good.
said Detroit's ahead of Kansas City in their rebuild. What if I told you that wasn't true?
Well, they got a better record right now.
If you look at the run differentials for both teams, their Pythag win total is the exact same. They both have 18 wins according to the Pythag win and loss. So the Tigers have been a little luckier than the Royals. That's first thing. Second thing, the young guys that the Tigers were trying to build this rebuild around, Riley Green hit a dinger last night off of Greinke. He looks like he's breaking out at 22. It looks like he's a stud. Spencer Torkelson trending in the wrong direction, trending toward bust. All their big touted arms that they took high in the draft, Casey Mize hurt, Matt Manning hurt, Tariq Skubal hurt. They're getting nothing from those guys this year. So, like, there's some more similarities between the Tigers and the Royals. They are not lapping the field. They are not leagues ahead of the Royals when it comes to their rebuild. What has worked for the Tigers that hasn't worked for the Royals, they gave Eduardo Rodriguez a bunch of money to front their rotation instead of the Royals giving 2 years to Jordan Lyles. And Eduardo Rodriguez is a good pitcher, and Jordan Lyles is not. Like, the veteran guys.
No, Jordan Lyles is the worst starting pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. I've heard that song before.
He's given up. I don't know about the last start, but at one point in time, he had the most home runs allowed and the most earned runs allowed as a starter. That might have changed in a week.
Yeah, I mean, how do you factor in like ERA? I think matters in that situation because Lyles does pitch a bunch of innings.
So I just know that he's terrible.
But yeah, like they gave a bunch of money to Javier Baez. That
did not work.
Hasn't really worked out the way they wanted to. They're still paying Miguel Cabrera a bunch of money. Like, dude, let it go, dog. It's over.
I think this is his last year.
It is definitely his last
year.
It
is.
Did you know that he has did he get a hit yesterday?
I don't think so.
Was he in the lineup yesterday? The next hit that he will have the most hits against the Royals out of any person ever.
Yeah, I believe that.
I believe that too.
Now, I mean, the guy's got how many for his career? 3,100. Yeah, I believe that.
He because he got a hit in game 1 of game 2 of the series. I don't know if he got a hit yesterday.
But no, I just want to make that point that the Tigers are not like that much better than the Royals right now as it stands. They've been a little luckier result-wise, stacking their runs together in a more agreeable sequence than the Royals have been able to do. But they're basically the same team.
You could make an argument Jordan Lyles is not the worst starter on the Royals. You could make that argument.
Singer's been pretty bad.
Yeah, like the fielding independent numbers favor Singer by about a full run, but walks and hits per inning pitched, hits allowed, walks per 9, ERA, they are all worse for Singer.
Jordan Lyles giving up 14 home runs in 56 and 2/3 innings. That is so unpleasant.
It's very bad.
Yeah, terrible.
But also Lyles is getting you further into games too.
But Lyles also hasn't helped you win any games. Singer has at least pitched well enough in about 3 games to actually help you win.
Yeah, you literally haven't won a game.
Yeah, I know. Anytime Jordan Lyles pitches, bet against the Royals. Just bet against the Royals no matter what.
I mean, yeah, that's usually a pretty safe bet.
Yesterday, I bet against the Royals. Hey, they won by a run and a half.
When you bet against the Royals, do you bet the money line or the run line?
It depends on the matchup. Like yesterday, I bet the run line. And it worked out.
It enabled him to buy those cool shades.
Yeah. I'm a big run line better. I got a couple run line bets in for today, in fact.
Yeah. It just depends on the pitcher. Like, I bet the run line when Rodriguez pitched. That obviously didn't work out. But if you bet the run line, more than likely you're going to win because the Royals normally get dusted. But if you bet the money line, you're 36 and 15 this year.
I have bet run lines. I don't bet a ton of baseball. I have bet run lines 4 times this season. I am 0-4, including betting run line against the A's in 2 of their 10 wins.
That's just bad luck.
That
right
just
there.
tells you I don't need to be doing it. Like that is a sign from the gambling gods. Stay away. Put your acorns in a safe space. Put your nuggets in a safe space, and wait for football season.
I will ask you what Dan asked me right before we went to the break. You get them for their entire 13-year career each. Who would you rather have, Eric Hosmer or Mike Moustakas? I can't tell if Jake fell asleep because his eyes are covered. I don't know if this was contemplative or if he just knocked out.
I'll say Hosmer's been so bad for the Padres and the Cubs.
He also played for the Red Sox in there.
His highs are better than Moose's highs, right? Do numbers
His
back that?
2 best seasons by OPS plus are better than any of
the
Moustakas' best.
Yeah,
but
I can see that.
Moustakas also had 2 30-homer seasons where Hosmer's high was 25.
I mean, that's kind of, to each their own. If you like Hosmer, you're a Hosmer guy, you take Hosmer. If you're a Moose guy, you take Moose.
I know this. There are a lot more dogs named after Moustakas than there are named after Hosmer.
Yeah, not many Haas the dogs out there.
No.
Yeah.
I do know somebody who I believe Hosmer is the middle name of one of their children.
Really?
Yes. I don't know that there are any blank Moustakas blanks running around, but I know of at least one blank Hosmer blank out there, which I think that's cool, personally.
I mean, yeah, if you're that big of a fan, I get it.
The Nuggets are 4 wins away from me trying to convince my wife to name our firstborn Nikola. So, I get it.
I've already had Billy Eugene turned down for the first and middle names, so someday that won't be happening. Look,
I just got that.
Billy Eugene Self Jr.
I know.
Give me a lot of good memory.
I know. That took me a while to get that one. I was like, oh, yeah, Eugene. Yep. Okay.
Aaron Rodgers Wierzinski, I'm sure, is also not going to
The wife
go very well.
ex-nayed our son's middle name to be Lebahn. So
Lawson, Lebahn.
yeah, you can't do
Lebahn to be fired. That's a fire name right there.
You can't go Lebahn. That just does not work. That's the reason why. Because I was like, what if we do Lebahn? And then she goes, we'd name him Lawson, Lebahn. Absolutely not. And I said, yeah, okay.
I don't know. There's Robin Robinson out there. You can go with a
Robin
name like
Roberts.
that. Robin Roberts. Yeah, you can do that.
Couldn't do that. Lawson, Lebahn. Okay, L cubed.
Triple L.
Hey, KU, number 1 team in the country next year? Preseason basketball?
Yeah, I don't see why not. They got everything, and if Nick Timberlake can shoot it, then they're going to be really good. Because that's the one thing that they lack right now is 3-point shooting. But if Timberlake is in there, let's say Timberlake's your 2. Okay, you got a 40.
I think he's probably your, he's either your 2 or your 3.
Doesn't matter.
He'll start.
Guys on the floor. If he's out there and he's shooting that well, then, Harris, not a great shooter, did shoot it okay, just in small doses. McCullough gets a little bit better. They're going to have crazy. There's 3 starters guaranteed to me. And then 2 others are up for. I'm so interested in KJ Adams because the reason he was so successful to me is because he was playing the 5 and he was so much quicker and so much more athletic than other 5s. He's going to do that against 4s. Can he do that? I don't know because the big dudes are going to guard Hunter.
Yeah.
And it might not. And that question that I'm posing might just be, I have to wait and see it on the court, because like in this situation, KJ Adams is going to be guarded by Jalen Wilson because Jalen played the 4. KJ Adams going to do what he did this last year against Jalen Wilson? Absolutely not.
No, I mean,
so that's my only question.
Self said even today he was on the field of 68 with Rob Doster and Jeff Goodman. He said he compared again KJ Adams to Draymond Green. I don't really see that. Like I kind of see where he's going.
Shoot.
I can't shoot.
Draymond at least at a time could shoot.
Yeah,
well,
kind of.
Really. Not really.
Somebody once said Draymond shoots like he's wearing a backpack.
Messed up.
No, I'm curious to see what he looks like next to Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah,
that's KJ's starting. Thing. Like he's going to start for KU. Bill Self loves him.
They're going to play some fun 2-man game stuff. I could see.
Yeah,
like a little high-low, some pin downs for each other. Like,
yeah, they got a lot of depth.
I don't know. There's been a lot of KU related consternation about like, can you play him at the 4? Like you can't really shoot the 3. I don't know that. I am beyond worrying what Bill Self is going to do with this lineup. Like, I'm really not all that concerned about that. By the way, Draymond Green, for his career, is a 31% 3-point shooter. The best year of his career was the 72-win Warriors, or 73-win Warriors, excuse me. He shot 39%. He has not shot better than 31% since then.
So 39's been helping that average out there a little bit.
Yeah, you take out that 1 year, and you're looking at like 30% for his career. It is wild that he's going to go to the Hall of Fame averaging under 9 points a game.
Right?
9.7 rebounds a game, and he's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Going to cruise to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. You're not going to be there, but what is Fulton going to talk about tomorrow on Mic'd Up?
He's going to talk about the Royals.
Okay.
He will talk a little Chiefs, and to be determined elsewhere.
Maybe some sports, maybe some pop culture.
Yeah, Kent Swanson will come on.
Maybe everything in between.
12:35 tomorrow. Off the air a little early to 2:30 because K-State baseball.
Yep.
So yeah.
By the way, how's Paul Meyerberg today?
Excellent.
He's the best.
He's
the
Meyerberg,
absolute best.
Paul Meyerberg maybe says that let's make this a big power conference west of the Mississippi.
Oh.
Not so much east.
Oh. Interesting.
Yes.
Did he give you a pick 9 or 10 wins for KU football?
He said same as last year.
Okay.
He said the biggest game for KU, Illinois.
Yeah. I've had that
big game week 2.
That game has been circled on the calendar for a long time.
4 teams he thinks can win the Big 12. K-State, Texas, Oklahoma, and Baylor.
Baylor, interesting. Blake Shapen back this year. I know that's your boy, Dan.
Yep.
See if Blake Shapen's coming back?
Big Blake Shapen guy over here. Yeah, real big Blake believer.
All right, Jake, we will see you. We'll see you after the holiday.
All right, have a go, guys.
That is Jake Lebahn, and that is Crosstalk here on 580 Sports Talk. Yeah, as we get closer to midsummer and fall camp and all that, we'll talk more college football. But yeah, Paul Meyerberg, he's the absolute best. He was on with Jake and Fulton earlier today. You can go check that out on our website, 580wibw.com. Head to the podcast tab. For that interview, click on Mic'd Up, and for all of our content, obviously, click on 580 Sports Talk. That does it for the first hour of 580 Sports Talk, though. We've got our national and local news coming up here at the top of the hour. When we come back, talked a lot of KU yesterday, and right now, we'll talk some K-State basketball. What is next for their roster this summer? Plus, we've got Rick Peterson and What Is Wrong With You. Those two things clearly not related, though. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more 580 Sports Talk after this.
Tickets
Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk getting underway. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock today. No Royals baseball tonight. Their second of 5 consecutive Thursdays off today. I still can't get over how weird the schedule is. Next week is even weirder when they have a Wednesday and Thursday off back-to-back. Wednesdays are never off days, period. And then having back-to-back off days is just completely bizarre.
Yeah, it's messing with my head.
I don't like it.
I really don't approve.
So we will have Royals baseball coming up tomorrow night. We also have K-State baseball on the air tomorrow afternoon. The Batcats with an all-important win, maybe for their postseason futures and certainly for their Big 12 tournament run earlier today, shutting out the top-seeded Texas Longhorns. So that is big for K-State. They'll play either KU or TCU coming up tomorrow. Do we know when that game starts, the TCU-KU game?
Tomorrow?
Today.
Or 4 o'clock.
4
So
o'clock.
it should be just about to get underway.
Okay, well, we might have an update for you then by the time we are off the air, at least where that game is trending through 5 or 6 innings coming up a little bit later on. Here in this 4 o'clock hour today of 580 Sports Talk, as we are effectively leading you into the holiday weekend since we don't have a show tomorrow because of the K-State game. We'll talk a little K-State basketball here in just a moment. We've also got today's What Is Wrong With You, which, as always, is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. And at the bottom of the hour, Rick Peterson from TopSports.News is going to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for this week's edition of the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. One of the busiest editions of the Whip Around we have all year round. All the spring sports are ending this weekend, pretty much.
This is the final in-season edition of the Whip Around.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. Softball, baseball state going on, state track this weekend. We've got a golf recap. Soccer is going on as well. Swimming and diving just wrapped up. So much to get to. Plus, some breaking news right about the top of the hour. I guess we can make it known right now because Hayden Catholic School has put out a press release. But the Hayden boys have a new basketball coach, and it is a very familiar name, Trey Brown, the former Shawnee Heights superstar, who then went on to play D2 and NAIA ball in college. This past season was the head coach of the Care Paravel boys. Well, after 1 year, he is moving on to the Hayden Wildcats. He'll be their new boys basketball coach. So we'll talk to Pistol about that coming up at the bottom of the hour as well.
You know, it's not unfamiliar, and I'm sure, Pistol's been covering high school sports a lot longer than either of us, but I've been doing it a good while. And so I understand that that's kind of part of it is you cover athletes and then they go on to their college careers, and then some of them come back and they end up being coaches. I was not prepared for it to happen as fast.
No,
but it does not surprise me that Trey Brown has entered the coaching field, that he has had some success, and that he is Hayden's choice to lead their program. I think he'll do a great job there.
I had just started here because he was class of 17.
Yeah. So it was my first year covering high school sports here. I remember calling the state championship game at the Expo Center. That was back when 5A was still at the Expo Center, and Shawnee Heights won that year. They won state. That was they kind of came in a little bit under the radar into that tournament. It was a incredible wide open tournament. They beat Schlegel in the final. Trey went nuts. I think they were down big in the semifinal to Eisenhower, and he just wouldn't let them lose. He dragged that team back into the game by the scruff of their neck and ended up winning. I want to say in overtime. And started at Missouri Western, ended up at Mid-America Nazarene, and now is, after 1 year as head coach of Care Paravel, going to be the head coach of Hayden. And like I said, I think he's going to do a great job.
So he graduated in the spring of 2017. I started here as an adult in the fall of 2017.
Right.
And Trey is several years younger than me. That does not make me feel very young, that he is now on head coaching job number 2 out of college. But that's awesome for Trey. And again, we'll talk about that and everything else going on in prep sports with Rick Peterson at the bottom of this hour. We're taking your texts. 785-272-9429, as always, is the text line number. And you can jump into the YouTube comment section as well. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Find us on YouTube, and you can watch the live stream and hop into the comment section over the course of the show. We spent a lot of time yesterday on the program talking about KU basketball, understandably so. Kevin McCullough announces he's returning. And by the way, if you missed those details, you can go check them out at our website right now on the homepage, our story about Kevin McCullough returning, 580WIBW.com. But K-State has been very under the radar. They have been laying low. Now, they've been attached to a boatload of dudes in the transfer portal, including one just this week, I want to say it was Tuesday, when Julian Phillips put out his list of schools that have contacted him. He's a standout forward from Tennessee, really talented player. He's going through the NBA draft process right now. He's doing his team workouts. It's no sure thing he comes back to school, but if he does, all the things we've heard all offseason have been K-State is going to be one of the finalists to get him. They are really interested in Julian Phillips.
And every power program, including Kansas, has reached out. Like, everybody would be interested in adding a player of Phillips's caliber to their roster.
That feels like it would be this year's version of getting Keontae Johnson. Different because Phillips is younger. He has several years of eligibility left. Keontae, it was known from the beginning, in all likelihood, a one-year player. But that's what it would feel like, a mid to late summer addition that kind of changes everything. Like Tyler Perry, who has been the one that K-State's gotten out of the portal so far. Really good player. Like multiple time first team All Conference USA, the reigning Conference USA Player of the Year, played for the NIT champions at UNT this past year with Grant McCasland as their head coach, who's now at Texas Tech. Awesome player who I said right as he committed, I said, this is their best player. Right now on this roster, Perry's their best player. Julian Phillips has the potential to come in and instantly be the guy, like Keontae came in and was instantly the guy for this past year's K-State team. So there's obviously plenty of guys out there they're still looking at. K-State is still tied to a number of players. But when you look at their roster as it is currently lined up, and getting Perry was a big deal, because if you strike out on Tyler Perry, then you're in a spot where you're pretty much just running it back with the freshmen and the guys who are back from last year, which, to be competitive at the highest level of college basketball right now, not a great setup unless you truly have unbelievable returning talent. And I think K-State's is good. I don't necessarily think it's otherworldly. And more than anything, that's because I think it's just a lot of guys who haven't hit their ceiling yet. Like Naquan Tomlin could be an All-American caliber player. I just think he's still got room to grow into his game, frankly. He's played so little basketball. But getting Perry helps a lot. And if you go just 1 through 5, who's going to start, who's going to back up at all these spots, it's not like K-State is, in desperation mode right now. They can be, I don't know about picky, but they can be fairly choosy about who they try to target in the portal. It's not like Kentucky that literally has 7 scholarship players and is coming off of a year in which they were disappointing and probably needs to figure out if they can field the full roster for next year.
Right.
K-State's really not in that spot, which is obviously a better place to be in.
Yeah, so it's been such a quiet summer for them, right? Where you start to wonder, like, okay, like, where are the guys? Like, what? Because last year, obviously, out of necessity, was super active. It felt like every other day, Jerome Tang was announcing, hey, this guy's joined our program. And a lot of those guys ended up, being pretty helpful players, even if you may know maybe their transfer wasn't greeted with like big headlines or anything like that. Like, imagine last year's team without Desi Sills. Imagine last year's team without David Gasson. Like, you can't. Those guys were big parts of what K-State did last year. So part of you is thinking, well, gosh, they had 6 seniors on last year's team. They're losing 2 All-Americans. They got to replace that. They got to have some urgency. They got to go after, go get some more big fish. They got an All-American last year in the transfer portal. Well, go get another one. And Tyler Perry is a big deal. Like, I think that, just because he's coming from Conference USA and not one of the power conferences, like, don't think that doesn't mean he can't play and that he doesn't have a chance, as you said, to be their best player this coming year.
Conference USA might have been like the 4th best conference in America last year. That was an awesome league.
It was a really good league. Had more Final Four teams than the Big 12.
Yeah.
So
it was a better league than the ACC, probably.
Yeah. So I had that thought too, because it's been a quiet period here for Kansas State. But then I put down, like, on paper, looked at what they have, and including the transfer Perry, and including the 3 freshman class, all of which are 4-star guys. 2 of them are top 100 guys. Day Ames and RJ Jones are both top 100 recruits, and you would expect top 100 recruits to play, to be part of your rotation. So they've got 5 guards essentially on the roster right now, including Perry. Cam Carter and Dorian Finister are the returning guards. Finister was a guy who earned the right to not redshirt last season, which is not like, I know he didn't play a lot, but he was dressed. He didn't redshirt. Like, he earned the trust of the coaching staff to not be a redshirt. I don't know how much he profiles as a combo guard or if he's a true two, kind of like Cam Carter feels like. But Dorian Finester's back and Cam Carter's back, and then you have Ames at the point and R.J. Jones at the two. Taj Manning was a redshirt freshman last year. Jerome Tang loves Taj Manning. I don't remember what game it was. It was obviously it was after a K-State win at home, and somebody asked about Taj Manning as like a practice player. And Jerome Tang said he's got a chance, referring to Manning, to be the winningest player in Kansas State history, which is not a thing you say lightly. That's not something you just kind of throw around out there. So obviously there is a lot of belief in the coaching staff in Taj Manning. Just because he redshirted last year, he is going to be a factor. Right now, he's about the only 3 on this roster. He's the only true like small forward player on this roster. And then up front, you have Naquan Tomlin. McCaleb Rich is the other freshman that's coming in. He's the freshman that's not been a top 100 guy. He might be a redshirt, though. I think physically he probably could hold up. Like, he's a big kid, stout kid, but he may be a red shirt. We'll see. And then at the 5, you have David Gasson returning and Jarrell Colbert. I typed in the rundown as Tolbert. That's wrong. Jarrell Colbert was a redshirt freshman or redshirt player. He played at LSU, transferred, redshirted last year. So you've got in that list, you got 10 guys. And that group of 10 to me, if that was what Kansas State took into next year, I think that is a NCAA tournament team.
Okay.
I feel like that mix is an NCAA tournament team. You're asking a lot from the freshmen, I think, as currently constructed. That's why it's known they want a guard. They want a guard with some experience. So they don't need to lean heavy on Ames or Jones to be difference makers in year one. I think they're one difference maker, maybe 2, one at the guard spot, one in the post, from being a team who can mix it up at the top of the league. But I still think a team with Tyler Perry and Cam Carter in the backcourt and Naquan Tomlin as your big front court scoring option, I still think that's a team that can be good enough to be in the middle of the pack and be an NCAA tournament team. I do.
That's an interesting question. Knowing the standard your coach and coaching staff are bringing, there's obviously value in that. And I like the returning pieces for Kansas State. You talk about the guys who redshirted last year, and apparently Taj Manning, and by the way, it was the media availability after the TCU win. So that win was on February 7th. It was that week that all the players talked about how good Taj Manning looked, and how he was running the scout team. I was just reading from Arnie Green at the Salina Journal. Tyke Green said, yeah, he matches with me physically. That was an old dude who was saying that. Jerome Tang said no one wants to guard him in practice, said he's going to be an all-conference player. He might be the winningest player in K-State history. So that was mid-February, in the middle of like when K-State really started to show what some of that metal was. They kind of went through that slow stretch there, early February. That's when he was really standing out. But I like Naquan Tomlin. I like Cam Carter. I like David Gasson. I don't necessarily love every element of Gasson's game, but there's a lot to like there. And I love Tyler Perry's game, even at just 5'11". I think he's going to be on an all-conference team. I think that is the truth going into next year. I think K-State, and difference maker is a good way to put it. I think you're like one really solid, really good player away from me being fairly certain this is another like top 5-ish seed. Like I still feel like they're one piece like that away, or alternately 2 more like plus role players, like not necessarily getting another Keontae Johnson or in this case, it'd be Julian Phillips if we're talking about this year's portal, but like 2 more guys who you could say they're either your 5th starter or they're a super 6th man. Like 2 more guys like that, or 1 real star player, I'd say, oh yeah, this is a 4 seed again.
You would like 1 more guy on this roster who you feel like can get himself a bucket.
Yes, well put.
Yeah, like can score for himself, because K-State had 2 of those guys last year, and you saw how far you can go when you have 2 guys who can do that.
I would agree with that entirely. Now, the one thing I'm curious about projecting these guys going into next year, I think we need this offseason and this second year under the Tang administration to know how good this staff is at developing guys year over year.
No, I agree with that.
Like we saw with Marquise Noel. I mean, we knew he was a good player in his year with Bruce Weber, but he was wild, sometimes took ill-advised shots. We remember the attempted game winner from like 40 feet out, right? Who was that against OU? Who was that against? I think it was Oklahoma, but it might have been someone else where he's barely in front of half court and he's chucking. And you think, Marquise, what are you doing? And you bring in some new eyes, a new coaching staff, and it worked and it clicked. And he was great all year long. He was a third-team All-American. He was one of the 15 best players in all of college basketball last year. That's what that 1 year was able to do. But in terms of year-over-year growth with guys who have been in the system, is this the kind of staff that does a great job of bringing in guys and getting them to assimilate to the culture, and that's when they take off? Are they good at, or alternately, or as well, are they good at getting guys to buy in and continue to grow in it? Because I think, especially in the transfer portal era, there's different types of development that you see. It's not the linear, you barely play as a freshman, but you practice a lot and you practice hard. Then as a sophomore, you see the floor a little bit more and you still practice hard and the growth starts to show. Then as a junior, you play every game. Senior, you're in all. It's not like that for many guys anymore. So I'm curious to see how those guys continue to grow. And I don't think you can really use Manning as an example because we didn't see him last year. But for Cam Carter, like I think there's a lot more Cam Carter can do. And I think there's a lot more, as I already mentioned, that I think Naquan Tomlin can do. How much closer to those ceilings are they going to get this year?
And how much better? And then how ready are the guys who sat last year, Manning and Colbert? And Colbert's a bit of a different because he only gotten 4 games with LSU, but this next year will be his 3rd year of college basketball. So he's a bit of a different case than Manning and Finister will both be going into their 2nd years. But how much of a growth do they make? Physically, mentally, just being prepared, can they be contributors? And that is, we have to see that. Like, I think that there's a lot of faith that you can extend to Jerome Tang after what we saw under him in year 1, but we do need to see it from that linear growth, or not all growth is linear, so that's maybe not the right word, but that progress from entering the program as a young player, and then how do you grow year after year, and how quickly does it happen, and how much faith, because sometimes coaches don't trust young guys to go out and make it happen. I was an old K-State team last year. Does Jerome Tang believe that a younger team can play the same way, can execute the same things, can have the same results? Because I don't think that Tang and his staff view this year as, okay, we set the bar really high last year, but we treat this year as a bit of a rebuilding year. What did he explicitly say he did not come to Kansas State to do? Rebuild. Yeah. So, no, I don't think they're going to go into a situation. I really don't think this is going to be a year where they say, well, ready or not, you freshmen, you redshirt guys, you have to be 25-minute guys for us this next year in the Big 12. I don't think that's the case. So I do think there's another addition or 2 coming. But even if it doesn't, I have enough trust in the coaching staff and belief in the things that they have said about these guys that we didn't see last year, that they can be at least decent role players in the Big 12. And if you've got decent role players and you've got, in my mind, 2 guys who are going to be all conference caliber in Perry and Tomlin, that's sort of the baseline level of what you need to be an NCAA tournament team out of the Big 12.
The other thing, to tie back to what I said earlier about not being overly picky and choosy about who you're going after here, but being able to be, to slow play it, to not feel like you're in a desperation mode. It's hard to even find this year's version of a Keontae Johnson transfer, because he was such a perfect fit. Like culturally, in terms of his game, just everything fit so well. It was really a perfect storm to be able to get that player to come to Manhattan. I don't know that player is necessarily out there. Maybe it is Julian Phillips. Maybe K-State is able to get him. He's a great fit in that 3-4 hybrid role. He's a go-to, get mine kind of bucket getter. And you end up essentially with the same thing as you had last year, except instead of Noel and Johnson, you end up in those roles with Perry and Phillips. I don't know. But I think it is important to keep in mind. You don't just need to go get like the biggest name out there. You know who the biggest name in the transfer portal probably is right now? It's probably Caleb Love, who was a big name for good and bad reasons at North Carolina. Didn't, had whatever the transfer academic issue was getting into Michigan because they're so stingy about transfers athletically. He's out there. I don't think Caleb Love's a good fit for K-State.
I don't either.
I can understand why there's intrigue there, and I can understand thinking, man, we have to add numbers, and we have to add shooting.
A veteran guard, right?
And Caleb Love's out there, and I've heard of Caleb Love, and he's played in the ACC. K-State, I think, based on what I know about Jerome Tang and this staff and just its athletic department, they're not going to just go get guys because they're names. They're going to get guys because they fit the program and what the ethos of the program is. So just saying, we'll go get Caleb Love because he's out there. We need a 3-point shooter. We need a name. No. Go get guys who are going to fit what we want to do. And I'm not explaining anything new to Jerome Tang. Like, I'm repeating his point, not giving him a point, obviously. But I think that's why it still might be a while before we see any movement with K-State. They got their best player last year in like late July, early August, right? Not in any rush. And I think that's what we've seen and why it's been such a slow summer up until this point. We will get to a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, we've got What Is Wrong With You, and Rick Peterson's going to join us in just over 10 minutes right here on 580 Sports Talk.
What if your body...
It is our final show of the week here on 580 Sports Talk due to the K-State baseball game tomorrow. So it's time to find our weekly winner in What Is Wrong With You, which, as always, is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, here in the capital city. Our current winner for the week, the Hot Pocket Pistolero, the 64-year-old gentleman who was mad that his roommate took the last Hot Pocket, so he shot him in the butt with a real gun. Not a BB gun, a cap gun. No, he popped the cap all right in his butt.
Real gun.
Shout out to Louisville. All right, 2 news stories going head-to-head today. Dan, why don't you go first?
We're going to Marlin, Texas. Very small town in Texas, southeast of Waco. I had to look it up on a map. And it is graduation time for high school seniors across the country. Want to congratulate those of you, maybe you are a graduating senior, you know or love a graduating senior. Congratulations to them. That's a big deal. That's an awesome lifetime achievement to be able to graduate high school, celebrate with your graduating class. I know those ceremonies have been going on here the last couple of weeks or so, and congratulations to all of those graduating seniors. There are 33 seniors at Marlin High School, and the Marlin Independent School District was all set to have their graduation ceremony, except they had to postpone it because 28 of those 33 seniors did not meet the requirements to graduate.
That's a few too many.
Due to attendance or grades. Superintendent Daryl Henson said, "We hold firm to our belief that every student in Marlin ISD can and will achieve their potential. Students will be held to the same high standards as any other students in Texas." One of the 28 seniors, a young man by the name of Salvador Guerrero, was told he was not eligible to graduate. Learned last week he needs to complete a state I want to make sure I think it's an aptitude test. State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness, or STAR. He had to complete the STAR test for a U.S. history course, but the test is not available until the summer. So the school's graduation has been pushed to June, and the school officials say they are also planning a mandatory meeting with seniors and their parents Wednesday night.
I mean, this is sad almost more than it is anything. I will say grades, I mean, this does seem to be a public school, which in my public school experience, they will do anything they can to get you to graduate. So that is an unfortunate situation. The attendance thing, I'm going to sound like a real nerd saying this, and that's fine. I don't know about where you went to school, but I always found the concept of like ditching class or playing hooky or anything like that. Like I didn't ever understand it because when I was growing up, like you went to school, like
right.
There were no truancy problems because like the concept of truancy just didn't exist. Like you just went to school. I never cut class ever because none of my friends did. No one I knew did. You just like went to school.
Like we had a senior ditch day.
I didn't even do that.
Yeah, we did that. I did that. I forget what Marvel movie I went and saw, but went and saw a movie.
We were threatened that we weren't going to get
X-Men. That's what it was.
We were threatened we weren't going to get to do something if we did senior ditch day. And I was like, well, I'd rather go to Six Flags or whatever it was. So.
Nah, it was state assessment tests, and then we didn't have to do like all of them. So we just checked out after like 11 o'clock, like collectively. Me and a bunch of my baseball teammates went to a movie. Yeah, like along the line, there have been some failures of these kids and some failures probably by some of these kids. But man, 28 of your 33 seniors can't get graduated. Like that's collective, like community fail. That's like, there's enough blame to go around for this one.
How did we end up in a spot where this kid could only take a test that didn't even get held until the summer? Like, shouldn't someone have said, hey, take this last summer or during the school year or something?
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah. How does that end up being the case?
Yeah. This is on everyone.
But yes, also to your point, like 90% of life is showing up.
Yes. Correct.
Like 90%. I think that's literally the line from the Keanu Reeves movie Hardball. But like,
yeah,
so much of life is just show up.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then I don't have a ton of sympathy. If your problem is, oh, you didn't go to 75 days of your senior year, so you can't graduate. I don't have a lot of sympathy for that.
No.
Just go.
Yeah, I just always found it weird. Like, I was always a movie thing to me. Like, kids ditch school? Like, I don't know anyone who ditches school. My story today is going to take us to Oklahoma, where we meet Stachek Helm. And Mr. Helm is facing an indecent exposure charge after he allegedly used his iPhone's AirDrop feature to send explicit photos of himself to employees at a real estate firm while he was there shopping for an apartment. The 23-year-old earlier this month used the airdrop feature to transmit photos of his private parts and of himself naked in front of a mirror. Investigators described the alleged offense as, quote, indecent exposure via digital means. Helm went to a Tulsa realtor to apply for an apartment. An employee of the firm told police they directed Helm to, quote, sit at a computer for the application process. While filling out the application, well, apparently he just got bored because 2 workers in the office received airdrop notifications to their phones. If you ever have used airdrop, it pops up on your screen and it says, so-and-so wants to send you a thing, accept or decline. Well, they were curious. So
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
You let the strangers airdrop you stuff.
The both workers said they were curious as to what the contents were, so they both accepted it. They ended up finding naked selfies of this 23-year-old man.
No, man.
He was arrested and booked into the county jail on 1 felony count, later released on $2,000 bond. He will have an arraignment next month.
Did he think that was going to help him get the apartment?
I guess. I don't know. Either he's just a pervert, or I thought it was going to work. And I'm kind of leaning with the former.
Yeah.
According to the smoking gun, by the way, he lives at home and did not get the apartment.
I bet he didn't.
The only time I ever use airdrop is like if I'm sitting on the couch with my wife and I have a funny meme I need to show her. I will airdrop it to her.
Like, I will only airdrop if I'm explicitly asked by my wife, hey, can you airdrop me that thing?
Yeah. Because it's easier sometimes.
Happily. Yeah, because it is easier sometimes. But no, I'm not accepting an airdrop from anyone who I don't know. The Stanachek wants to airdrop you something. Absolutely not, dude.
I had someone airdrop me their album cover on a train one time. And I was like, I'm not going to look up who this is. I don't know which of you people over here sent this to me, but I'm not going to listen to this album. Who wins today?
I'm going to go with that guy. I'm going to go with our pervert. The airdrop pervert.
Really is a pervert.
Yeah.
Does that beat the Hot Pocket Pistolero?
No. That story's going national.
Yeah, it is. It's all over.
Couple of like sports podcasts have touched on it. I don't know if they have What Is Wrong With You type segments on like the Gary Parrish show, but nah, man. They got a fight over a Hot Pocket.
Over a Hot Pocket that cost you $1.49.
Hot Pocket.
Death Pocket. That is our winner for the week in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Rick Peterson will join us next right here on 580 Sports Talk.
they were tough.
And that makes Rick a citizen of the world.
It is time for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk. A little bit later than normal for bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, I should say, on this Thursday afternoon. And we welcome in Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. That's where you can find all of Pistol's work covering our prep sports teams around the city and Shawnee County. Also, this weekend especially, make sure you're following him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. So many state events going on. Pistol, are you ready for the blitz that is the final state weekend of the year?
I don't know if I am or not, but have no choice. So we'll press on.
We will do our best. We've got a ton to get to. Really quick to lead things off, because I know you just put a story about it over at topsports.news. But before we get to all the state events, the Hayden boys already have a new head basketball coach, and it's a familiar name, Trey Brown, who was a superstar at Shawnee Heights, great college player at Mid-American Nazarene, spent last year as the head coach at Care Paravel. Well, just his second year into the coaching ranks, he'll be the head coach of the Hayden boys. What do you make of that move for Trey and that move for Hayden?
Well, I think he was happy with Care Paravel, but it was just too good. The Hayden job was just too good a job not to go for and not to take when it was offered to him.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it was a very young team, a very inexperienced team for Care Paravel. Still got them to 9-13. They had a good end of the year, so very happy for Trey. Looking forward to getting to talk to him plenty over the course of the year. So one of the basketball openings filled pretty quickly. Still waiting on Topeka West's girls. All right, Pistol, we've got a ton. Oh, go ahead.
It's actually pretty much been filled, and we should know that either tonight or next week at the next board meeting.
Oh,
so they got somebody in mind. I think they'll have somebody in place for the start of summer stuff, but it's not official yet.
Gotcha. All right. Well, perfect then. So we'll have something to lead off next week's high school whip round with. Perfect timing for that. All right, Pistol, we've got a ton of state stuff to get to. Let's start with this. What does your schedule look like? We'll start off with your events. Where are you headed this weekend? I think I have a feeling I know what your schedule looks like.
I'm already here. I got to Wichita this morning, and I'll be here till Saturday night. All
right, well, let's start with the boys' side of things. State track going on down at Cessna Stadium in Wichita. Let's start with the boys first. What events are you most intrigued by, just in general this year, or specifically including our city athletes?
Well, for our city athletes, I want to see, obviously want to see if Bethany Drews can win a second straight 800 meters title. I want to see what guys like Lenny Naroje and Jackson Esquibel can do in the 5A distance races. I want to see what Elijah Brooks can do in the 5A sprint. I want to see what Hayden's mile relay can do. They've had they get second best team in the state, I believe, the best time in the state, and I want to see what they can do, and lots to look forward to.
I know it fluctuates from year to year. So for this year's events, does it feel like the distance races, the sprints, the hurdles, what feels like the deepest groups and events this year?
I'd say the deepest group would be the distance from the 800 on up, particularly in 5A and 6A. But there's always some great sprinters, and there's always some great relays and great hurdlers. Jake Moeller, I should mention him from Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
He won the 300s 2 years ago. He got beat by an eyelash last year. I look for him to win or be very, very close again this year.
From all those names, and you obviously mentioned Jake right there, but from those names you mentioned a moment ago who you're going to be keeping an eye on this weekend, how many legitimate shots at gold medals are you seeing there? I mean, obviously Bethany Drews is at the top of that list. Just mentioned Jake Moeller and his odds in his events. How many are you looking at as, just looking to medal, and how many look like they might be legitimate title contenders?
Well, Trey Richardson will have a chance in all four of his events, 100, 200, long jump, triple jump. Alicia Batson of the sophomore from West is a very, very good triple jumper, and him and Trey will go head-to-head in that event. So to answer your question, I'd say 5. I mean, I think if city athletes could win 5 gold medals, anything above that, I think would be gravy.
Yeah, that would be a whale of a weekend down in Wichita. We're talking to Rick Peterson from TopSports.News. It's the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Follow him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. And of course, stay tuned to TopSports.News throughout the weekend for coverage of every state event going on over the next few days. From track down in Wichita, let's move on to the diamond sports here, because there's already been some big news for our city teams today, Pistol. Let's start with Shawnee Heights, the Thunderbirds, with a big-time upset in Class 5A, taking down Bishop Carroll. They'll play Goddard Eisenhower coming up tomorrow. Just how big of an upset is that, Pistol? I know the tradition runs deep at Shawnee Heights, but taking out a team that I believe just had one loss entering today in Bishop Carroll, that's a big-time win for that program.
Yeah, and it didn't surprise me that much because I know Heights is very young, Carroll's very young, and I think it's all about pitching a lot of times. And Grace Proctor went out and pitched the 2-hitter and struck out 8, and then really Shawnee Heights did a great job of taking advantage of the opportunities they had. So they just flat out played them.
In Class 6A, a game that just finished up right around the top of this 4 o'clock hour, Washburn Rural picks up a win over Shawnee Mission North. 2 runs allowed, but Emerson Cope was phenomenal in the circle for the Junior Blues today. They'll take on Olathe Northwest. That game is coming up tomorrow. What do you make of Washburn Rural's title odds? I know they're always in the mix, but coming off of big momentum from today, what do you make of their chances to come away with the title in Lawrence this weekend?
Tomorrow will be tough, which it should be in the 6A state semifinals. But I think, you mentioned, I mean, Emerson Cope's a good place to start. If he has a big weekend, they'll probably have a big weekend. And, they were second last year, lost by 1 run to Topeka High. So I think if they, I think they definitely have the possibility of winning the whole thing.
From Class 3A, going down to one of our county schools, Rossville gets the 6th seed in Class 3A. Their first game of state is coming up just about an hour from now, if I'm not mistaken. What do you make of their draw in Class 3A? I know you said a couple of weeks ago that, similar to basketball, 3A might be the deepest class in the state.
Yeah, and I think, Rossville has a tough go right off the bat. But if they can get past, and I think Columbus, if they can get past them, I think, they were there last year, so they know what to expect. And they lost 2 really close games in the semifinals and the 3rd place game. So I think, when you have 3 games in 2 days, it's all about who gets hot at the right time.
In baseball, a game that has just gone final within the last few minutes, I believe, from Class 6A. Unfortunate end to a memorable and historic season for the Topeka High group. The Trojans fall against Derby 9-0. That game was close for much of that contest. Kind of got away from the Trojans late in that one. And this is one of those teams, Pistol, and I know every year you get to state, you think we've got a chance, we want to win. But I think when you step back and take a look at the context of this program and you take a look at the context of this year, I mean, there's no denying how successful and how historic this year was for Topeka High.
No, and they have a lot of key pieces coming back next year. And, unless somebody's coming up with the last couple of days, when I was researching, the last time I could find for sure that they went to the state tournament was 1947. So, just to make it there, you never want to be happy just to make it there. But I think when they look back on this year, they'll be happy at what they accomplished. And
I sure hope so, because, man, it was fun to follow them this year. Down in Class 5A for baseball, a team that's there pretty much darn near every single year, the Seaman Vikings. They are the 4 seed in Class 5A. What do you make of the draw in Class 5A? I mean, we know if Seaman baseball is there, they're going to be a legitimate contender for that state championship. What do you make of the 8-team field this year in 5A?
Well, over the years, I think 5A has been one of the most even draws. One of the 8-team fields that's been the most even. So there's always 3 or 4 teams that have a legitimate chance, and I'd say it'd be that way again this year. I'm actually sitting here right now watching Bishop Carroll and Great Bend. Carroll's up 2-0. Carroll's always good. Aquinas is always good. And Seaman's always good. you don't make it to 19 straight state tournaments without being good. So they'll throw Bryson Blotter today, and I think again, if they get on, I think the key for Seaman is getting the sticks going. They gotta get some offense going, and if they get some offense going, I think that gives them a real chance.
Pistol, that's a private school number. Like that is a private school that can get any players they want kind of number to get to a state tournament 19 years in a row. That's insane.
Yes, it is. And it was 9, probably the 9 state titles is also insane.
Also true.
But, but they've had very, very good tradition. And, hey, I'm a big believer in tradition because nobody wants to be the group that doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of power in that feeling as well. A couple more minutes with Rick Peterson from TopSports.news here on the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Make sure you're following him on Twitter throughout the weekend at Peterson_Rick and staying tuned to TopSports.news. Let's get to some state soccer here, Pistol, before we wrap things up. Washburn Rural in Class 6A, dominant again, another phenomenal year for the Junior Blues. They'll take on Mill Valley coming up tomorrow. Seems like I ask you this every year, but is this the year they break through and pick up a state title?
I just don't know. I mean, they always have a chance, and they've always played very well. It's just soccer is one of those sports that, a lucky shot here or there, a tip ball here or there, and all of a sudden you're losing like a 1-goal game. So it's probably the closest sport because there's so little margin for error. But they have a great goalkeeper in Haley Beck. They got a great coach in Brian Hensel. They got a really balanced team. Not a real superstar, but they get like Bell Kennedy was last year. But they're really balanced. So if they win tomorrow, I think you give them an even chance. And Blue Valley West is not there this year, and they've been the team that's been the dominant team in 6A for a lot of years. So it kind of opens the door.
I know she's not quite, it's not her main sport like volleyball or even basketball is, but can you imagine, Pistol, Brooklyn DeLay picking up a state title in basketball, volleyball, and soccer all in the span of 2 years? That'd be pretty darn impressive, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be great to be part of teams to do that for sure.
All right, last one I've got for you, Pistol, from Class 4A soccer. Hayden and Bishop Miege, they will play each other tomorrow in the semifinals. What does that matchup look like for Miege, or 4A, 1A, I should say? That seems like a tough matchup for the Wildcats. How are they going to fare against Miege?
Well, Miege is, I believe, the 6-time defending champion. They handled a very, very good Care Paravel team, 6-1. But the last team to win a state title other than Miege was Hayden. So they've proven they can get it done over the years too. So the key there is they can't let Miege get up early. They got to at least keep it even or get up to give themselves a chance in the second half.
Head over to TopSports.news for coverage all weekend long of all the prep spring season state championship events going on around the state involving our local teams. Make sure you're following Pistol on Twitter as well, at Peterson_Rick. Pistol joins us every Thursday for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. Pistol, we appreciate the time. I know it's a very busy day today. Enjoy Wichita, and we're looking forward to recapping all this next week when we talk to you.
Look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. What a crazy busy week in prep sports. We have to get to a break. We'll start the 5 o'clock hour after this on 580 Sports Talk. 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock. No Royals baseball tonight. They've got the day off. They'll be back in action coming up tomorrow to start a 3-game weekend set. One of 2 baseball games we'll have for you tomorrow right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We've also got K-State baseball. The Batcats, they'll be in action. We'll tell you why they are continuing to play at the Big 12 tournament coming up here in just a few minutes on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. That's coming up this hour. Also this hour, some interesting thoughts, at least I think they're interesting thoughts, about how on a national level sports stories get covered. There's been a lot of talk today. This is mostly, if you've been on social media, maybe you've seen this, if you follow a lot of journalists or you follow just a lot of sports fans, sports people, a lot of consternation about one particular national NBA writer who essentially said that the Denver Nuggets aren't interesting and there's nothing to write about because they're not interesting, which if Chris Mannix had talked to any of my journalism school professors, they would have had it out for him because that's not anything you should admit or really even think.
Yeah,
in
isn't that
position.
just a failure of your own imagination if you come across something and you decide, now this isn't interesting?
Yeah. We're about to get to the NBA finals. Like, if you can't find something interesting to write about, I'm not really sure why you have that job. Anyway, it's about essentially we want to get to a bigger point about the way that our favorite sports are covered. I think it's an interesting topic, and we're going to get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, we'll look ahead to the weekend. We're done. We don't have a show coming up tomorrow because K-State has first pitch right at 3 o'clock. And that's where we're going to start our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. Little college baseball Big 12 championship tournament update. K-State yesterday lost in, frankly, embarrassing fashion to TCU 16-3. They got run ruled at the Big 12 tournament, sending them to the losers bracket of the event. Now, some places think K-State needed a good showing this week in order to guarantee their spot in the NCAA tournament. Some places, D1Baseball.com among them, had K-State in no matter what. They had them in even after getting run ruled by TCU, said, nah, K-State's going to get in this year. Pete Hughes' group, they're going to be safe. Well, today, in a do-or-die game against the number 1 seeded Texas Longhorns, K-State got a win and an impressive one of their own. A 6-0 shutout of the number 1 seeded Longhorns. So K-State will now play tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Shout out to K-State's outstanding closer, Tyson Neighbors, who worked the final 4 innings, entered the game when it was 1-0 in the 6th, then worked 4 shutout innings. The Wildcat Bats were able to get him some insurance. I think they scored 5 in the 7th to really kind of put the game on ice. But yeah, terrific job by the K-State pitching staff. I believe Texas had just 2 hits on the afternoon. And Neighbors typically been the 9th inning guy. He was the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guy today, and he was super.
Yeah, just dominant performance by K-State. So they'll play the loser of the KU versus TCU game. Do we have a score on that one? It started recently.
Last I saw was a 3-1 lead for TCU after 2. I'm going to double check. KU has cut into that. Luke Leto with a home run solo shot to make it a 3-2 ball game after 2. And that is the last update that I have been able to track down.
Yeah, I hope you took. We're tied.
Oh, yeah,
Cole Elvis with an RBI double in the top of the 3rd. This game is tied 3 apiece.
All right.
How about KU?
The battling Jayhawks.
Playing pretty well down at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. So K-State will play either KU or TCU. I think we're at a point where we can say almost definitively that K-State is in. I would be shocked at this point if they didn't.
I think they're going to make the tournament too. Big deal. First time in a decade that they played in the NCAA tournament, and that'd be awesome. Great for the program. Great for Coach Pete Hughes and those kids. Be remiss if I was hunting for the name and it was on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't get to it. And the text line of 402 helps me out fittingly because he's an Omaha kid. Ty Rule went the first 5 for K-State today.
Okay,
threw really well, set a good tone, and helped K-State get advance and keep their Big 12 championship alive.
I mentioned it to Fitz when we talked to him last week that I had read earlier in the year that this felt like something of a do or die year for Pete Hughes because it's been a while and that's a proud baseball program at K-State. And does this feel like a year where they kind of have to make it to the postseason beyond the Big 12 tournament? And Fitz said, yeah, there's a lot of people who feel that way. And I think they're going to get their wish. I think it's going to be done for K-State this year. So good for the Batcats. They'll be in action tomorrow at 3 against either KU or TCU. Pregame begins at 2:30, and it's a game you'll be able to hear right here on 580 WIBW.
Let's keep it moving on the 580 Sports Talk headlines with our
Playoffs?
roundup. It is the playoff roundup. Rope 'em, Cowboy. There you go. Not a visual medium, except for those of you for whom it is a visual medium. But
That
Brendan,
hog getting away from me that
Brendan pantomimes calf roping when I talk about the playoff roundup. It's really a sight to behold.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
it is very obvious in your form that you, like me, grew up in the suburb of a major American city and not on a farm.
No, not
in the rodeo world.
The last time I was on a farm, I'm pretty sure was a children's learning farm when I was like 6 years old. Like they just have animals you pet. And they're like, oh yeah, they make food here. Okay.
Have you been to a rodeo before?
No, I never have.
No. Okay, so when my second job in radio, I've worked a bunch of jobs for people who are maybe not familiar with my CV. My second job in radio was in North Platte, Nebraska, and they have a pretty big deal rodeo there every year. It's called Nebraska Land Days, and they have a big. They say it's the oldest rodeo in the world, I think, or the oldest rodeo west of the Mississippi, something like that. But it's the Buffalo Bill Rodeo. And so it's a big deal, and they fill up the grandstand out there in North Platte. And I went to that one year and watched some of the action. And I had they call them catch pen passes, which is basically like,
oh yeah,
your booze is paid for. And I took advantage,
as you should.
And I probably remember that more than I remember any of the action.
No,
shout out to Pendleton Whiskey.
The first time I ever saw like rodeo grounds, I asked it was in Newton, and I have a good friend who's from there, and we drove by, and I said, "Oh, they tear out the football field?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" Said, over here. He goes, "No, dude, those are the rodeo grounds." I thought, oh, whoops.
We got to get you to a rodeo, man.
No, I'd go. I'd have a good time.
Yeah, we got to do 580 Sports Talk does rodeo. Yeah, we got to do it.
I had never even been to a county fair until last summer.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that was the thing that was part of my, formative radio experience. I worked in small enough markets where, like, part of my job was you went to the county fair and you talked about it because that's what people were talking about was what was happening at the county fair. So that was my first experience was as an adult as well. But I've been to my share of county fairs by now.
I had a good time. We went to the Douglas County Fair last year. I mean, we lived by it, and it was fun. We did, I'm always down for a carnival, so I was down for the rides from the get-go. But yeah, saw the animals, saw them get shown, saw them all, walk around, look at them.
I did the 4-H, like, I didn't do 4-H, but like I went to like the 4-H livestock showing deal last year when I was in Colby. It would have been the Thomas County Fair. I've seen that. I guess that would have been last year. I guess it would be 2 years ago now. But I've seen that. I've seen a cat fashion show.
Oh,
at one of the. I'm trying to remember if that was in Wyoming or if that was in Nebraska. But yes, cat fashion show. Those cats were all just irate.
I believe it. Definitely believe that. I didn't even know what 4-H was until I was an adult.
No, it was not something I was familiar with at my high school either. Like if that was a thing that happened at my high school, I didn't know anything about it.
No, I didn't know what 4-H was. We didn't have an FFA at my high school because we're all city kids.
Yeah, like me too.
It's concrete for 100 miles in every direction.
Exactly.
Where would I do any of this?
Right. So yeah, it's kind of been. It was very eye opening to experience as an adult. We gotta get you out to a rodeo, man.
I'd go.
You
I'd
and I.
happily go.
We get catch pen passes to the next rodeo whenever we can find one.
Gotta go to Strong City.
Yeah, Strong City got one coming up. Yeah, they do. Playoff roundup. We were talking about sports. In the NHL last night, for the first time since 1996, the Florida Panthers are the Eastern Conference champions. They wrap up a 4-game sweep of the Carolina Hurricanes with a dramatic 4-3 win. Matthew Tkachuk with a game-winning goal with 4 seconds left in regulation. You talk about a close sweep. Florida won the 4 games of this series in 4 overtimes, in 1 overtime, by a 1-0 score, and by 1 goal scored with 4 seconds left in regulation. narrow margins define the NHL postseason. And so it is for the Panthers, who are returning to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since their fans used to throw rats on the ice. That's a whole thing. They did that in 1996. The coolest thing ever, because of course that was the Stanley Cup Final they lost to the Colorado Avalanche. And the coolest thing ever was, so it was a whole thing that Florida fans would throw plastic rats onto the ice when their team scored a goal. And you have to like stop the game and sweep up thousands of these plastic rats. Patrick Waugh, legendary trash-talking goaltender of the Colorado Avalanche. He gave up a goal early in that series. I want to say in the first period of game 3. So it would have been the first road game. Colorado hosted the first 2 games, won the first 2, take a 2-0 lead. They gave up a goal, Waugh did, early in game 3, and legend has it he went into the locker room and he looked around at his teammates and said, "No more rats," and then proceeded to not allow another goal the rest of the series, including in triple overtime in game 4. Patrick Waugh ruled.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time awesome things that has ever happened. Anyway, congrats to the Florida Panthers. They are headed back as only their second appearance in a Stanley Cup final in franchise history. Tonight, Las Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights will try and finish their sweep in the West. They lead Dallas 3-0. Game 4 tonight in Dallas. Dallas without their captain, Jamie Benn, serving the first game of a 2-game suspension.
If you believe, well, Vegas is going to get it done. I don't know if it's tonight, but they're going to get it done. Dallas looks cooked. And again, they don't have their captain for 2 games. If you believe in goal differential, point differential, run differential, whatever, as a predictive number, I would bet on Vegas to win the Stanley Cup this year, because winning 4 games by a grand total of 4 goals in a sweep, no less, for Florida, while Vegas, I mean, they've just been toying with Dallas for a good chunk of that series. I'm going to lean with Vegas as my pick to win the Cup. I'd say Vegas in 6.
Okay.
That'll be my official pick before we even get the matchup.
In the NBA tonight, game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, scene shifts to Boston as the Celtics try and continue to dig their way out of the 3-0 hole that they dug against the Miami Heat. No Gabe Vincent tonight for Miami. The Heat starting point guard,
That's tough,
turned his ankle toward the end of game 4, and he is out tonight with a sprained ankle. That is a big loss. He's averaged 17 points a game in the series, and has shot like 50% from 3. So he's been a real big player, real big part of the Heat's Cinderella run. You think the Celtics extend the series again tonight? 4-5 at home.
Yeah. No, I say the Heat get it done.
Jimmy drags them by the scruff of their neck. They make enough threes. Get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a good game from all the, like, Bam has to be great. Jimmy has to be great. You need Strus to probably score in probably well into double figures. You need all those dudes to be really good. But if you're telling me you need to be tough in game 5, you need to play the toughest game of the series, who are you going to trust more? This Heat team or this Celtics team? The Heat. Easily. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Miami. I think they get it done.
I think,
and they need to, because they need some rest.
Yeah, they could definitely stand to wrap it up. The longer that series goes, again, the advantage maybe shifts a little bit toward the Western Conference champion, who once again, that's the Denver Nuggets. They won the Western Conference. They're waiting for the NBA Finals to start. Quickly from the text line before we get to another headline from the 785, a couple of texts from different numbers from the 785. One asked that I never went to the National Western Stock Show in Denver when I was a kid. Nah, that just wasn't part of the family routine to go do that. I do have some memories of going to the Denver Coliseum, and it would always smell like the stock show because it was adjacent to the big stock show arena there across I-70 from each other. And then you should check out the Working Man's Rodeo in Council Grove every year. Craziest rodeo you'll ever see. They milk longhorn cows.
Whoa. All right.
I might be in on that.
I thought when I was in Fort Worth for the tournament 2 seasons ago now, I mean, there was stuff about the Fort Worth stock show everywhere. I mean, you want to talk about famous. I thought that'd be pretty fun. That'd be pretty cool. That's at the Dickies Arena now, or next to Dickies Arena anyway. Yeah, I'm not opposed to any of it. I was never exposed to any of that. I grew up in a suburb,
right?
25 minutes from the 3rd biggest city in the country. Like, I just wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
Bad, even worse, allegedly, for the Las Vegas Raiders. It was revealed today that Jimmy Garoppolo has not yet been cleared to practice. Remember when he hurt his foot last year?
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some rumors that, man, if maybe there's a chance that he could come back and play in the NFC Championship game. That obviously didn't happen. They got smoked by the Eagles. That's history now. He still has not been cleared to practice because of that same foot injury. So he's just been off on the side at OTA so far. Apparently, it was revealed today, the Raiders had him get another procedure done on his foot after they signed him this offseason, and now he may not be ready to go until training camp this year. Again, the report is that they knew about this and that they were okay with it. The 49ers said he would have been good without another procedure. The Raiders said, nah, you're having more surgery on that. We want to make sure that is as stable as can be. So the Raiders will not get to see their new $70 million quarterback throw at all until we get to training camp this year.
They have any other starting caliber quarterbacks kicking around? Maybe one who just bought a share of the team? Just throwing that out there.
So the Raiders this year, along with the fact that they're just very stupid and just a very dumb team and dumb franchise football-wise, their whole goal was to get rid of Derek Carr. Generally, when you're talking about the most important single position in all of sports, there's a contingency plan. It's been, argued about endlessly for 3 years now, but the Packers had a plan. They're going with Jordan Love. Is it going to work? Nobody knows, but they had a plan.
Right.
Teams have, there's usually the Chiefs did it perfectly, seamlessly from Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. The plan doesn't always work, but you need to have a plan. The Raiders' plan was get rid of Derek Carr, by whatever means necessary, and we'll figure it out after that. They now have an injured Jimmy Garoppolo and rookie Aiden O'Connell as their options. Aiden O'Connell from Purdue.
Yeah, I remember Aiden O'Connell. I also remember never at any point watching him and thinking, yeah, that's an NFL quarterback.
No, fine, Big Ten quarterback. Yeah. Totally fine. But yeah, that's the offseason. By the way, Devontae Adams talked to the media today, and he said, essentially, I love being with the Raiders. I don't regret this decision at all. I'm happy I'm here. I just have some frustrations with certain things. It's a very normal thing. Quote, if you're that bored, as in making up stories or writing stories about how much he hates Vegas or whatever, go play Monopoly or some bleep. That's what he said today. Things are going great in Vegas. It's bad. They are right now worse run than any other franchise.
Yeah, they're in bad shape.
They hired Josh McDaniels, and they hired a GM who's just buddies with Josh McDaniels. How did you think that was going to work? Mark Davis, low-key, doesn't get talked about enough because we just talk about how he loves P.F. Chang's and his horrible haircut and the fact that he drives like a 1997 Chrysler Pacifica. But he doesn't get football at all. Like, Al, I think, got football. He just was very fixated on speed, among other things. I don't think Mark Davis understands how football works. And that is why they just are miserably bad and terribly run and easy to make fun of.
Very, very easy to make fun of.
Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Which is a blessing for us as
right.
content generators. All right. Hey, let's do another segment within a segment, folks. It is time for the little segment we like to call A-Watch. We track the travails.
Ratings are going down, folks.
We track the travails of the worst team in professional sports, the Oakland Athletics, who lost again last night. They lost to the Seattle Mariners 6-1. They went with the opener strategy last night. Austin Pruitt worked a scoreless first. That was great. And then scheduled starter Ken Waldichuk came in, gave up 5 runs in the 4th inning, dropping the A's to 10-41. They are now on pace for 31.76 wins. This has been A-Watch.
It really is Major League. I know you said that yesterday, but that is what this is. They are. I know it's easier to tank when you suck, or it's easier to move when you suck, and then you can build the whole thing up in your new place. And they're going to relocate to Vegas in all likelihood. And it's, oh, hey, you're getting on the ground floor, and we're going to be good. And now we're going to compete that we're in a new city. You trust John Fisher to get that to work? You trust that organization to make this plan work? No. And it sucks. It sucks for A's fans, the ones that are left. And if you're an A's fan or a former A's fan and you've given up, I do not blame you one bit. Not even one bit. If ownership said, we don't care, we're not going to try, we don't care about you, we don't care about our stadium, we don't care about putting a competitive team on the field, I would find it hard to be a fan too.
Tonight, J.P. Sears takes the ball for the A's as they wrap up their series with the Mariners in Seattle. It's Logan Gilbert on the hill for the Mariners, who's very good. The A's are plus 215 on the money line tonight per FanDuel. The Mariners are minus 260.
J.P. Sears, love his catalog.
Yeah, he does. He sounds like the heir to the Sears fortune, doesn't he?
JP Sears the fourth. JP Sears.
How did he
Roebuck.
make his money? Catalogs.
I remember in school, like, having an entire day talking about the Sears catalog and how that, like, revolutionized American culture, and thinking, bro, there's a Sears at the mall. Like, how big of a deal could this have possibly been? But apparently it was a big deal at one point in time. Well before my time, certainly. Next headline for me. Where do you stand on flopping in basketball?
Don't love it. Think it's bad. Think
Yeah.
it detracts a little bit from the enjoyment of the game, particularly when you have guys who are just free throw merchants who are hunting fouls, guys like James Harden and Austin Reeves and Dennis Schroeder, and I'm going to name a lot of Lakers because, like, that's kind of their stock and trade. But, like, yeah, there are a bunch of guys in the league who that's their whole thing is get a whistle.
One player who is especially adept at it is playing tonight, in fact, Marcus Smart.
Yes, Marcus Smart, big flop energy.
I don't even really care about the Celtics. Like, I don't like them, but I don't hate them either. I will always root for the downfall of Marcus Smart. I will root against him until the cows come home.
I think you got a lot of company there.
No love lost for him whatsoever. But it was tweeted out earlier today by Shams Charania of The Athletic, Stadium, FanDuel. He's all over the place. Tweeted out, according to sources, the NBA's competition committee is discussing potential in-game penalties for flops that would result in a technical foul free throw. They're potentially going to try this in the Summer League in July. Now, if you pay attention to college basketball, and frankly, if you are a listener of 580 Sports Talk, you probably do, this has been instituted the last couple seasons in the college game. No more flop warning. You see the official throw his arms down.
Mm-hmm.
That means it is I don't know exactly what the ruling of it is, but it's not a warning anymore. It is a one-shot technical.
Yeah.
And then you resume the game. And I think in principle, it's good because there's no need for that in the game. It's a physical game. Guys get knocked down legitimately. You don't need to be flopping.
And the NBA in particular really needs to legislate it out because there are a lot of people that I hear from who that's one of the first things they bring up when they talk about, well, I don't really like the NBA. I don't really enjoy watching the NBA. And one of the first reasons they give is all the flopping, because there is that perception that it's a league that doesn't punish it, that rewards it. And so the solution is punish it. Punish that behavior.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you 100% on that. The problem with the new rule in college has been the enforcement of it. What is a flop isn't always ruled on correctly. You get guys who actually got knocked down, but the official didn't see it clearly. They call for the flop. Guys who clearly are taking a dive on the floor. Nothing. I don't really trust NBA officials to get this right. And this needs to be a very specific rule, I think, because can you imagine 5 seconds left, Western Conference Finals, Game 7. We've got a 6-minute monitor review for a flop. Like, oh my God, I'd rather you just flop and get it over with.
Right.
That's where I have the concern is I don't trust NBA officials to officiate this properly.
That's a fair concern, I think.
But you got to get out of the game because it's bad. It's horrible to watch.
You do. And it should be, it's like legislate the obvious stuff. Like if you're a legitimate, like gifted thespian at being able to sell contact, hey man, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have a bunch of like James Harden going to go to acting classes. But like if it's the obvious stuff, that's the kind of thing when guys are just like throwing themselves on the floor. That's the kind of stuff that you need to root out because it doesn't, it's not good for the game. It hurts the game. Fans don't like it. Nobody likes it.
No. And everyone, like, we know it's happening. You're not fooling anyone. It's not as funny as NFL flops because in the NFL, I mean, you're getting hit to the ground every single play. You get shoved off a pile and guys will take a dive. They'll jump back. That's always just funny and almost never actually gets called. In the NBA, fouls get called on those plays all the time. That's all LeBron was doing for the last 3 games of that series with the Nuggets because they didn't have a chance otherwise. So you got to legislate that out. I just don't trust that the NBA officials will be able to do so properly. Any other headlines for you today?
No, I think that's a wrap.
Then let's take a time out. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, what is the role of national sports media when it comes to covering big events? Sounds like a vague question, but there's a point to it. We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk.
Attention.
8:43 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. As Dan mentioned during our playoff roundup, we've got some NBA playoff action coming up tonight. Celtics versus Heat. Have you seen a spread for that game, by the way?
I think it was 8.
Favoring the
Boston.
Celtics?
Yeah, Boston 8 was the last I saw. I'm going to check again. Yeah, still there. Boston -8.
Yeah, I would take Miami there. I would take Miami +8 for sure, even on the road. Like you said, Boston just 4-5 at home in the postseason. The Nuggets are already into the NBA Finals. If the Heat win today, they will be in as well. They've got 3 chances to win once. Boston needs to win 3 in a row in the Eastern Conference. Chris Mannix is a national league-wide NBA writer, insider. Is he still at Sports Illustrated?
Yeah, still at SI. Covers boxing too, but the NBA is also his beat.
Mm-hmm.
East Coast guy, Celtics fan, like got to start in the Northeast.
So there's been a lot of frustration over something he said today. He was a guest, or was this yesterday when he was on the Rich Eisen show?
It was yesterday.
All right, so he was on the Rich Eisen show. I like Rich Eisen. I think he does a good job in the show.
Rich Eisen, they have a good, fun personality.
Mm-hmm. So Chris Mannix was talking about how a lot of people have complained in recent days that a lot of the national media coverage has been focused on LeBron and the Lakers as opposed to the Nuggets. Nuggets swept the Lakers. They're going to the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history with a 2-time MVP, a great story this offseason in Jamal Murray. They're playing better basketball than anybody else in the postseason, I think, by far.
They took over first place in the Western Conference in, I think, December and never really relinquished first place. So this is not like they snuck up on people. They've been atop the Western Conference. They've been to the playoffs each of the last 5 seasons. They went to the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. So this is not like an out of nowhere team necessarily.
And a lot of the conversation has been, wow, the Lakers, they got swept. What's next for the Lakers? Oh, is LeBron going to retire? Well, no, LeBron just wanted the story about him, but that's different. And he was asked about that gripe. And he said the Nuggets, quote, they're just not a compelling team to talk about or to write about. Okay, I hate to be the, like, journalists are important thing here. Like, I went to journalism school, so I'm the arbiter of all things ethical because that's the most annoying person you know. But, like, dude, you're a professional writer and journalist, and your job is to write about the NBA and is to cover the league. For you to go on a national program and say they're just not interesting, why do you have this job? Like, why is this what you're doing? Like, if you're getting paid handsomely for it, I understand it. Not everybody works a job they love because they get paid nicely for it, or they have to find a job somewhere. I get that. But this is the kind of job you are embedded with these guys all year. This is a 12-month job if you cover a professional league. And you're just brushing off that, oh yeah, their complaints don't matter to me because I don't find them interesting. That seems like a you problem more than it is a team problem. And this came up to you. You were telling me that a friend of yours texted you. It was from what, ESPN, from Mike Greenberg show.
Yeah, Mike Greenberg,
about kind of this as a general topic.
Like, yeah, just a broader thing. Now, to double back to what Mannix said, he did kind of couch his remarks and said that the Nuggets weren't interesting this season relative to their competition in the Western Conference, because you had the Warriors and they were the defending champs and all their drama. And then you had the Suns because they traded for Kevin Durant, and the Lakers because they have LeBron. And then he mentioned the Clippers, who are not interesting. Like, I don't like,
not at all.
No, like, oh, they have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Neat. One guy who's won something, one guy who's never won anything. Like, why was that interesting? Because they spent all year hurt. Like, what's interesting about that? Those guys barely played, hardly played together at all. So what Mike Greenberg said, I thought was legitimately interesting, though, on his show. Because he actually does teach. Like, he's done some professorial stuff. Adjunct at Northwestern, and he's taught classes about sports talk radio, and he's one of the most notable to do it at a successful level for as long as he has done it. And the question that he asks is the thesis that he poses anyway, is that the sports media's role is not to create interest in something. It is to reflect the audience's interest in something. And I do think that that is true to an extent. That for you and I, Brendan, what we do is a lot of reflecting our audience's interest.
Right.
We talk about the Chiefs even when they're in an OTA where there's not a whole lot going on. We talk about KU and K-State basketball when we're months away from the start of basketball camp.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the Big 12, and we talk about the Royals even when they lose all their games. Because we know that if you're within the sound of our voice and you're listening to this radio program, that is what most likely concerns you if you are listening. So in that way, yes, our role is to reflect the interest of our listeners, to talk about the things that you guys want to talk about things that interest you, that drive you to watch us on YouTube or to send us texts because you care passionately about these things. But at the same time, if you are a big enough name where you have an audience the size of Mike Greenberg's audience, or the size, I don't know how many Twitter followers Chris Mannix has, but I'm sure it's more than me. If you are that level of a media presence, there is an extent to which people are seeking you out, which means they want to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say the way that you say it. They want to hear your opinion on things. And they seek that out when they click on your article or they turn on your show. And when that is the case, then you have a little leeway, I think, to talk about some things that interest you in the thought that, hey, this is interesting to me. This is something that I am passionate about in such a way that the audience is at the bare minimum entertained, even if they don't run out and become big Denver Nuggets fans, because I have talked excitedly about the Denver Nuggets for the last month on this radio show on the playoff roundup. Like, at least you're entertained by hearing me talk about it. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to say, well, we're just reflecting our audience's interest, and that's why we're just doing Cowboys and LeBron. And that's why, and the Yankees, because that is most likely what our national audience, what the broader portion of our national audience is interested in. But man, they're interested in you. Give yourself a little bit of credit that you are a good enough storyteller, that you are interesting enough, that you have enough of a following to be able to say, hey, you know what? I find this thing, I find this team, I find this player, I find this storyline to actually be interesting. And if there's absolutely nothing you can find, if you are Chris Mannix and there is nothing you can find interesting about a team that has just advanced to their first NBA finals, then that's a failure of your own imagination.
I just feel like you're not working hard enough, right? Like, how do you, it's like saying the, Eagles Chiefs, like, Patrick Mahomes doesn't play for the Eagles. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. No, they've got all sorts of stories you can talk about, or vice versa. Yeah, Mahomes has been there before.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking? I saw Herm Edwards was on ESPN earlier this week and said his biggest worry for the Chiefs this season, how can they handle being the hunted team? How can they handle that? That's a lot of pressure after you win a Super Bowl. Herm, have you paid attention to the NFL the last few years? I know you were coaching at Arizona State. Well, coaching. But they've been the hunted since 2018.
Yeah.
They won. They had an MVP, and they were a finalist in the AFC that year. They've been the hunted. They won the Super Bowl the next year. They have since been to 2 more Super Bowls and won one since. Like, it's lazy.
Yeah, there's
laziness more than anything.
A lot of laziness, I think, on that behalf. And yeah, I guess you forgive Herm because I know he was really recruiting and watching a ton of like Arizona and Washington State tape.
Yeah, I mean,
to do his job.
Dude was busy breaking the COVID rules. I get it. He had stuff going on.
We have a question from the 785 real quick on this. And aren't journalists supposed to be dispassionate, objective observers, reporters of the beats that they cover? Some of them, yes. Like beat reporters, 100%. Like if you are the beat reporter for the Kansas City Chiefs or the Kansas City Royals or whatever team, then that is your job to report the beat, to say, this is what happened. This team won, this team lost. This is why it happened. This is what the team is thinking internally. This is why this player got promoted. This is why this player's gotten benched. All of those things. Like, yeah, that is the job of the beat reporter. But a lot of media, a lot of sports media is opinion. A lot of it is editorial.
Especially now in an era where you can share your opinion at all times.
Yes. Yes, there's room for editorial for everybody. It's almost all editorial at this point. Like, Adam Schefter is going to give you the NFL beat as dispassionately as he can because he's got 32 franchises worth of sources that he's got to keep happy. So for Adam Schefter to editorialize, that's not going to work. But he'll tee up Booger McFarland and everybody else on that set on ESPN to be opinionated and to give their opinion. So, like, if your opinion is genuinely that this NBA Finals, whatever it is going to be a bad NBA Finals, then that's fine. Then say it with your whole chest. But it does ring a little bit hollow when you hear, oh, this just isn't compelling to me. Well, why not? Just say why. Explain why it's not compelling.
I also think, and this is more of a reflection of the league that the NBA is too with this particular topic. In a way, he is kind of reflecting like what his fan base cares about. Chris Mannix in this case, like you are a fan of basketball and of the Denver Nuggets and have been for your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Chicago Bulls. Well, I kind of hate them, but I follow the Chicago Bulls. I root for the Bulls against my best interests, and I care about basketball. Like, the biggest core group that follows the NBA is like 16-year-olds on TikTok who don't really care. They care about LeBron, or they care about Steph, or they used to care about LeBron and now they care about Steph, or
Vice
something
versa.
like that. Or they care about Boston. They care about the big names and the storylines and the drama and which Jenner these guys are dating, and that's it. It's passive. They don't watch the games. And you know how you can tell that? Because on places like ESPN, and I know this sounds like it's all just an attack on the worldwide leader, but like, they don't break down the games. They've got one guy in that entire company who actually breaks down basketball. It's Tim Legler. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Love watching
Legler's great on SportsCenter. Yeah.
He's the only guy they have that actually breaks down basketball. NFL, it's not great on a national level. I think it's way better to listen to us or to local people, but they've got a bunch of people who you can say, all right, here, break down this play for us. Why did the Chiefs score a touchdown here? What did Mahomes do? They got a bunch of guys who can do that. Because I think NBA or NFL fans are more likely to say, even if they don't really know what they're seeing,
they want to understand.
Let me see the tape. Oh, I was watching tape. Bro, you watched NFL primetime. That's not watching tape. But you know what I mean? There's more interest in that, which I think is a failure of the NBA to not like market, hey, look at this beautiful sport we have. But also, you're in a position as a Mannix or a Woj or whoever to be like, hey, look at basketball. Like, look at these good things that are happening here.
Yeah, like, celebrate your game. Like, that's the thing that people liked about Tony Romo when he started as a color commentator. He likes football, and it's obvious.
Loves football.
Like, the people that talk about football for a living love football. Then you get, like, the national baseball broadcast on Fox. John Smoltz, I do not think likes baseball. I think he would rather be golfing. And I think it comes through in all of his broadcasts.
Yep.
Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy do not like modern basketball. And it comes through in their broadcast, and they bring the worst out in each other.
Yeah.
So that is, at the end of the day, like, do you love what you are covering or not? And I think for you and I, Brennan, it's pretty clear that we enjoy sports. We enjoy it in all its forms.
Yes.
And we celebrate it in all its forms. But to have a take like, this team just isn't compelling, they don't move me. Well, why? Like, do a little soul searching before you come with that take.
No, I agree. It's not something you can do where you don't care. Like, and I'm not trying to, pigeonhole anyone here, but like, if you are you work in IT, okay, just a random career, you might not love your job. It might pay well. You might like some people you work with, but it might not be the most fulfilling thing. You might not be passionate about it, but you can get by day to day doing it well. You can't be on TV or writing in a magazine or for a website every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, and phone it in. It just doesn't work.
No.
It wouldn't work for our job. I know that much. We've got to get to a timeout. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up after this.
Hi, everyone.
Quick update for you from the Big 12 baseball tournament. KU, after 3, is down 5-3 against TCU. Hope you took the over in that one.
Yeah, overs are generally really good bets the deeper you get into a tournament setting.
It's wacky as all get out. Any big plans for the holiday weekend? We do not have a normal show tomorrow because we've got K-State baseball. They'll play the loser of KU-TCU tomorrow at 3, so no normal show for us. Any big holiday weekend plans?
No, I think we're just going to hang out. We've had a busy last couple of weekends, Abby and I, so I think we're just kind of looking forward to doing a whole lot of nothing. My wife just finished her school year, so her first day off was today. So
there you go.
We're just looking forward to just being some bums. And maybe we'll get in the pool if the water warms up, which it probably won't.
This is a genuine question. Does she have, like, anything to do between now and, like, early August? Like, is there... I got to work on plans for this or whatever, and maybe meetings or whatever, or she just done until August?
She's done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She just
a life.
Yeah. It's, I mean, and she deserves it. And honestly, summer should be longer. Shout out to all the teachers out there, man. All of them, everywhere. You're the best.
Yeah. No disagreement from me on that one.
My wife's the best of the best, but you are all the best.
Yeah. We are headed to Chicago for the long weekend.
Okay.
We're going to go see Abby's parents for a couple of days. We're going to go see my friends. Going to go catch a Cubs game with some of my buddies. Playing the Reds this weekend, and then I'm gonna hang out with my folks on Monday. We'll be back on Monday night. So yeah, good to get up there. Don't get to get up there all too often. Gonna see some of my family this summer. We're going down south for a week or so later in the summer. But yeah, it'll be good to get up there. We haven't been up to Chicago since, I guess we were there at Christmas time, but only have gone once in the last year, and both her parents and my parents live there. So nice to get up there. Hope you guys are going to enjoy your weekend as well. We had a note from Matt earlier in the YouTube comments. Reminder, Memorial Day is for those who have passed. This is a day to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for us in the line of service.
That's right.
Matt, a veteran himself, said that, not a day for the living veterans, but it is in Memorial Day. So enjoy the spirit of the holiday coming up, and hopefully you'll have plenty of fun and join us coming up next week. No show on Monday because it is Memorial Day.
It's Memorial Day.
Hopefully you have the day off from work. We're going to have the day off from work as well. So we'll join you again for a full show, our next full show, all the way next Tuesday. So we'll have plenty to get to on that day. We're looking forward to it after the long holiday weekend. But before we get there, let's take one more quick time out. We'll come back, finish up today's edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word.
50 years.
wrap up this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Dan, the floor is yours.
Everybody remembers Michael Block, hero of the PGA Championship, the everyman club pro who finished in a tie for 15th place, made a hole-in-one on Sunday, electrified the crowds in Rochester. We'll file this one under golf is hard. Michael Block got a sponsor exemption to the Charles Schwab Challenge today, which opened today in Dallas. He's going to need a par on 18 to break 80. He is at +9 through 17. That is 3 shots worse than anyone else in the field. DFL for last week's hero. Golf will humble you in a hurry.
Oh, okay. I know what DFL means now.
Yes.
I had to check in on that one, but
DFL,
okay.
The first word is dead and the last word is last.
Yeah, I picked up on that one eventually. Final word for me, maybe nice to get the Royals a little bit of an off day. If for no other reason than that bullpen has been worked like a punch press, and they've got to get rested because, well, they are the best part of the Royals right now. Decent fight yesterday. Carlos Hernandez showing some good things. If you're going to get 5 innings out of Zach Greinke every time he goes out, you might as well get some good ones. Get a rest, get back in action this weekend, bounce back, hopefully, and with a rested bullpen, Royals' chances of doing that a whole lot better. We will not have a regular show coming up tomorrow. Kansas State baseball will be in action on the K-State Sports Network. It'll start at 2:30 with pregame coverage, 3 o'clock first pitch against either TCU or KU. The loser of the game between those two teams going on right now will play K-State coming up tomorrow. After that, we'll have some Royals baseball tomorrow night, 7:10 first pitch as well. That's all coming up tomorrow right here on 580 WIBW. We'll join you for a full show again next Tuesday. But until then, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Enjoy your long weekend. This has been 580 Sports Talk.